This 2020 Sports brought to you by Scheiben Jewelers. The all-bridal weekend, March 20th and 21st. Hundreds of new engagement and wedding designs. 0% financing or 20% back on any ring purchase. Find out more at ScheibenJewelers.com. Back on Wednesday, James Harden missed the Cavaliers game against Milwaukee because of that broken right thumb. Dennis Schroeder stepped in, scored 26 points. Head coach Kenny Atkinson feels that Dennis can do the job.
I've always felt in my mind he's a starting point guard in this league. That's my way I've always looked at him. So he's obviously done it before. So if that is a situation, we're covered with Dennis.
Cavs continue the road trip. Time going to be in Detroit, taking on the Pistons. Detroit, the best record in the NBA at 43-14. Cavs very banged up for tonight's matchup in Detroit. Donovan Mitchell will miss his second straight game. That strained right groin. James Harden questionable with the broken thumb. Keon Ellis questionable, broken left index finger. And Dennis Schroeder and Dean Wade both dealing with sprained right ankles. They're questionable for tonight's contest. Guardians in Peoria on Thursday lose to the Mariners 8-7. Joey Cantillo got the start. Allowed 4 runs, 2 earned on fourths and 1 in the third innings. Guardians lose their third in a row out in Arizona. Can now find 92.3 The Fan on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Get the best content from our shows each and every weekday. That's 92.3 The Fan on YouTube. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas. On the next half of the Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima here on 92.3 The Fan.
The afternoon drive.
Not that 6.5 is something to write home about, though.
No,
let's not get this mistaken.
If you were a 5-win team last year and nothing has changed today, being on the track for more wins, I think, is an interesting kind of take from Vegas. Before free agency, before trades, before the combine, and certainly before the draft, they expect to be one of the 8 worst teams or one of the 5 worst teams, and you can change that math in free agency and trades and draft really easily.
I'm just trying to figure out where they found the extra 1.5.
Maybe they're big Munkin guys.
That's what I want to know. Is it because clearly Vegas, the only thing that's changed with this Browns team in the time that the season has ended till now is Stefanski being the head coach.
The afternoon drive. Weekdays starting at 2. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. The Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima.
Myles Garrett and Todd Monken haven't spoken yet. Can I just say it right now?
Yeah.
I don't care.
Well, I knew you'd say that.
Why? Because I'm a Browns guy and I'm just gonna be a mouthpiece for him.
Because what are you gonna make it seem like this is some big disturbance in the force?
Because
this is gonna prevent Monk. And I was like, man, they've both been in Cleveland at the same time. I would have thought Myles, especially being the guy, right? He is the guy. He is the focus until they get a quarterback. He's the focus of everything. I just would have thought they would have run into each other at some point.
You're doing this. You're gonna do this.
What is it that I'm doing?
Sows the seeds of dissension.
No, I think Myles.
I know what you're doing, and everybody else knows what you're doing.
When Myles asked for a trade, he started sowing all the seeds. It wasn't a guy doing.
So what?
Radio.
Now he's going to ask for a trade again because he hasn't talked to Todd Monken. What are you trying to say? The seeds of dissension are already done. Haven't you learned by now? Miles is always going to do his own thing.
Yes, for sure. That's why even more so would it have been oh look, they are on the same page from moment one. Even Myles has gone out of his way. He has even gotten in the middle of his travel plans to get to the facility.
He had to go to the Olympics
and wrap his arms around Monken.
There's a lot of things he's had to do. He had to go to the Olympics.
Yes,
That's 4,000 miles away. The other thing is he had to go to the Miami of Ohio game.
This is Cleveland Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
Day 30 of Todd Monken not having a face-to-face or a cell phone conversation with Myles Garrett. Hello, everybody. I'm Anthony Lima. Daryl Ryder is in for Kenny, who's on assignment. Owen is here. John, the new producer, is here as well. You know, there is a nickname that Ken has given John, and I don't think it's appropriate. It's from The Sopranos. It's from one of the last seasons of The Sopranos, and it has to do with a Northeast retreat by one of the not mob bosses. What would you call him? Was he a capo?
A capo. Yeah.
And I just don't think it's appropriate. I don't think it works. Do you agree or disagree?
Ken likes to have a nickname for everyone.
Yes.
He bestowed one on me and then never used it in the show, but always closed the show with it.
Right. Never uses it in the show. But if he goes live with this nickname, people are going to make an assumption about John that's, not, to my knowledge, not true. I don't know John well enough. I do know that he has a girlfriend back home, so I don't know if it's applicable. So maybe we'll get into that over the course of the show or
That'll be our running theme for the day.
Maybe the rest of the probationary period for young John. Anyway, 216-474-0092. What a perfect time to have Daryl Ryder in here. It's Combine week. People don't realize the Combine is actually like another 6 days.
Yes.
Goes well into next week.
The actual Combine's like starting today.
Yeah, but one of the big news items that came out of the Combine was the grades. We have the grades. They fought over this. They fought over whether this could even be something that would see the light of day this year.
They went to court to stop this thing. Bravo, NFL. Way to keep it top secret.
They looked for a cease and desist. They wanted a restraining order. They filed an injunction. And instead, last night, as I'm just sitting around looking at the Cavs injury report as it kept populating, growing for tonight's game against the Pistons, which we will have a preview coming up later today. Brad Daugherty, 8 o'clock. Brad, going to get him pumped up, at least maybe not necessarily for tonight, but for the stretch run. He might have to, Daryl, given the injury situation. But the grades, I kept seeing more and more leaking out as the day, transpired.
I'm so glad they fought over this in court.
This is so much. It's so much fun. It's
Way
perfect
to call
fodder.
more attention to something you want to bury, NFL.
Now, do you want to do Yay Boo? Do you want to do our version of Yay Boo? Any interest, Owen?
Sure, I'm in.
Daryl might not be privy to Yay Boo, but
I think he'll pick it up.
I once heard Conan Bryan reference a 1950s album that he grew up listening to where this performer would say something really nice and they'd go, yay, and then he'd say something bad and they'd go, boo. Pittsburgh.
Don't look up that performer's background, by the way.
I will not do that. I can only assume what that might be. Let's get to the yay. You want to get to the yay?
Okay, let's do that.
The Steelers are 32nd.
Yay!
The Browns are 30th. Boo. All right, what was your takeaway from the grades, Daryl?
Least shocking report card ever. At least from a pure Browns perspective, looking at the grades. The fact that Kevin Stefanski was the lowest graded head coach in the National Football League certainly explained a lot of the comments that were made in the locker room following his firing on January 5th. He was given a C-, which, again, lowest grade among head coaches. Special teams coordinator Bubba Ventrone got a D. I was actually a little surprised by that grade. I thought he deserved an F, but he got a D, so that's
grade
passing.
Inflation, Daryl. It's not just hitting the universities. It's not just hitting the Ivy League schools or your local high school. It's also apparently happening right now for the NFL. See, what do they call these? The union grades or what? The Players Association? Yeah.
And the report card.
The report card, yes.
I will say I think they were a little generous when it came to grading ownership and the GM. They got average grades, and I would argue below average was worthy, but the GM and ownership were both given a C.
So this is what I want to ask about. Are these grades, because obviously if you just look at the record of all the teams, is there necessarily a correlation between bad team gets bad grade, good team gets good grade?
No, the Packers got unfavorable grades. The Miami Dolphins were the best graded team, as the quote-unquote best organization. They fired Mike McDaniel this year. So I don't know that necessarily that all of these grades are reflective of the on-the-field product. You mentioned the Steelers 32nd, mostly because of the condition of the playing surface at Acrisure Stadium, which is always a cow pasture.
And the bathrooms?
And the bathroom situation. I didn't know they only had 5 stalls for a football team there, but apparently that's the case. And they share the practice facility with Pitt, if I remember correctly. They're legit in the same building next door neighbors.
Which, of course, led to them taking Kenny Pickett a few years ago, so it actually worked against them in that way. I would say this, five stalls, do we know if they're – so they don't do a trough because you could get so many more guys. No. You could cram in so many more.
Well, you'd run through ice, though, if you do that.
Oh, absolutely. But I would say this, like the less bathroom stalls you have, the more chemistry you're attempting to foster, right? Because guys got to hang out. What are you going to do? You're going to talk. What do guys do? What did we used to do in the dorms?
That's one theory. Yeah.
We used to sit there, hang out. We also had, for those that went away to college or had some sort of dormitory living in their life, we did the sauna. So you turn on every single, I guess you could do this in high school too, But it worked. It was awesome. We'd hang out there in towels like it was the Schwitz. It was terrific. Daryl, do you have any experience with anything like this?
You guys had steak at yours?
We didn't bring in steaks. Okay. I think we brought in top ramen from the convenience store downstairs.
We did that in the Air Force, but it was more to revive yourself after a long...
Oh, yeah. Well, you guys earned it. Was there any boys will be boys? Is there any towel snapping?
Airmen will be airmen.
They don't let you snap the towels anymore, Daryl. I mean, it could be considered bullying. And this show, staunchly, since I've been on this show, we have been against any kind of bullying tactics. Let's get to the grade on the coaches. So, obviously, the headline to me was the coach that got fired, Kevin Stefanski, was the lowest graded coach in the entire NFL.
And also every team that fired a coach wanted to interview him for their job.
So that is amazing to me. So if these grades had come out 4 weeks ago, is he the coach today of the Atlanta Falcons? What do you make of any of this?
Look, I think some of it is crybaby stuff from some of these players. Like the fact that the Browns were given, for nutrition and the food in the dining area. They got a D+ for the food and dining area.
Wait a second.
And the nutritionist and dietitian was given a C+. Like, what are we doing here? First of all, I've seen the cafeteria.
Sounds like a lot of ungrateful players for what the Haslams have provided. You've seen those smoothies, Daryl.
Well, I've seen their cafeteria. Their cafeteria is pretty nice.
What do they want? What are they looking for?
They've got like 4 different food bars too. It's not like it's just one line. You have to wait in line all day to get your food. I mean, they've got a warm prep area. They got a salad bar. They've got a smoothie bar. Like, they got everything there. And so I think some of it has F for the locker room. Okay, the locker room in Berea is a little tight, but it was recently expanded when they did the renovations a few years ago.
This has nothing to do with the stadium locker room.
Well, the stadium locker room, I think, is sufficiently big enough. By NFL locker room standards. Again, I think that there's some crybaby stuff in here when it comes to the report card aspect of it. They're just the whiny crybabies. But also, at the same time, I take the coaching grade seriously. I think that's something you pay attention to. The fact that Tommy Rees, D+ is offensive coordinator.
Boy, that one definitely stood out to me.
Bubba Ventrone got a D. But Jim Schwartz got an A-. Kevin Stefanski got a C-. So I do think that there's some credence you can put into when it comes to the coordinators. Andrew Berry is a GM, got a C, right? From that standpoint,
that's because he's trying to draft your replacements.
Well, not only is he trying to draft your replacements, but some of these guys have to negotiate their extensions.
Yeah, good point.
But these grades are coming from the Browns players themselves, right?
Yes.
They're not in the other facilities. We have a young roster.
Yeah, you have some veterans, but
right.
Yeah, I agree.
So
that's
does
why.
This say more about the roster, the players themselves, or the organization?
I think it says. I think it's all encompassing. I'm not and I'm not dodging your point because it's a good one, but I just the stuff.
The organization brought the players in. The players give them low grades.
Again, the grades
Same time,
that
I look at what's going on. The ranking for the Bengals, right? They end up 28th overall, but their facility stuff is atrocious.
Right, because they don't have a facility.
They have a bubble. Don't they have a bubble?
They have a bubble and a couple of turf fields, and they have to use the stadium locker rooms because, again, they don't have a training facility down there. But so the coaching staff grades and the GM ownership grades, those are things that I pay attention to. The team travel, the food and nutritionist stuff.
Which fans don't care about any of that, right?
No.
The average fan does not want to hear a player have a gripe, a player that might have a contract north of, say, $20 million or $30 million or $100 million or $240 million. No fan wants to hear about, was your family treated well?
Well,
does any fan care about this?
But the players do, and the Browns got a D- there. The Browns have historically gotten low marks when it comes to treatment of families, and I'm guessing that's, ticket availability, amenities for them,
It's funny.
At the stadium.
The team and the owner that has spent more money on his football team over the last, 5 years?
Yeah.
Than any other owner in the NFL. Go look it up. Actual cash.
Nobody pays more to lose as much as Jimmy Haslam does.
So I do think there's a big, while hardworking Americans and Clevelanders from Northeast Ohio are off to the mills and punching in.
Like you're getting free food all day.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to want to hear about this.
And you're going to complain about it?
I imagine they're not going to want to hear a lot about that.
I've seen the food that they get. Like, it's gourmet compared to like what I eat every day.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they're complaining about.
Then I do question, have any of you ever had to take a survey, whether it was in school? I remember we had these in high school.
I get 6 surveys on my phone a day.
Okay, so...
Please, tell me about your experience. Listen, if there's an issue, you're going to know about it. Otherwise, leave me alone. That's where I'm at on surveys.
Okay, but what about work survey? We've had work surveys.
Yes, we have.
So the very first work survey I got here, and this maybe...
And by the way, there's no such thing as privacy, no matter how much they tell you that it's confidential.
This is exactly what I'm getting to. When I just got hired here, we had a survey, and I laughed because I just assumed it was going right to our boss, Andy Roth, at the time. I assumed the anonymous survey. There's been no trust built at that point. I had just been hired.
Right.
I don't know what they want to do. I don't know how this is going to be used against me in contract negotiations. So I do laugh. Like when Kevin Stefanski has a C-, are there some people who are like, well, I don't want to give him an F because I might want a job wherever he goes next. Like, I always think about that. Is that why no coach got an F?
Never burn a bridge.
And when you look at what Atlanta got on their grades, all the things that sucked in Cleveland are great in Atlanta.
And their coach got fired.
Very, very, very interesting.
A lot of coaches that graded well got fired. Think about that.
216-474-0092. What do those grades mean to you? I want to hear from the fans on this. We'll also be monitoring the social media reaction brought to you by Scheiben Jewelers, Cleveland's premier jewelry store. YouTube Live is up and running. We'll be reading the comments. They're going to absolutely love our 7 o'clock segment when we get to Anthony Richardson. I know every day it's a new quarterback, but I think I might surprise you with my thoughts coming up on this. But in about 5 minutes, why do the Browns want to lobby for a new rule change for the competition committee? I have a wild theory about why that is. Daryl Ryder is in for Ken Carman here on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. Ever wonder why Fanatics Sportsbook is America's fastest online growing sports?
state-of-the-art gaming, world-class dining, live harness racing, and see the biggest stars in our concert-style music hall. Find your fun at MGM Northfield Park. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Spring training is underway. Get the biggest news from Florida and Arizona here. Cleveland's Sports Radio, 92.3 The Fan.
I got a wild theory on the Browns lobbying the competition committee to make a drastic change. More on that in a second. Owen was mixing it up a little bit with Young John, our new producer.
Chop it up.
Because we're talking grades, and we're talking about how Kevin Stefanski, the lowest graded on the report card that just came out yesterday, he was the lowest graded head coach of all of them. 2-time coach of the year. Kevin Stefanski, who was one of the first to get hired in the hiring cycle. I think it was John Harbaugh first and then Kevin. And you had a grade that you wanted to issue Young John for his inability to shut the door.
Yeah, it's a D-, right?
It's a D-. And then he comes in with the wild summer hack sports topic like, what would you do? What would you do with your kids if they came home with this Browns grade? And then I said, what grade did you get? John, what grade did you get in high school?
In high school, my GPA was about 4.2.
And then I said, what were the grades of your friends? And then you said your best friend is at Princeton and got a...
He got a 4.6.
These grades are meaningless.
They are meaningless.
What are we doing? I've heard of the grade inflation thing. 4.6, 4.2. 4.2, he's working in radio. Entry-level radio job. No offense to John's parents who might be listening, and, you know, that was a big...
Are very proud of him. Right?
Are very, and they should be. They should be. This is a tough show to actually get to a second week on.
My parents are not very proud of me.
Daryl,
why not?
Cough them up. What were the grades?
Daryl, let's go. Expand.
Sub 3.
Okay, I got 3.4. I kicked ass for me, I thought, on the SAT and the ACT, but yeah, 3.4. I wouldn't get into Ohio State with a 3.4 now. I mean, I flat out would not get into OU. I would not get into Ohio State. So
I hated math class. I hated chemistry class. Just, you know.
Chemistry? Really?
Yeah, just wasn't into it. And my grades reflected my...
How many NFL players do you think really focused on their grades, especially like in college? They were really focused on their grades.
Do they even go to class in college anymore?
What, Carson Beck hasn't?
So why are we taking stock into grades?
I know. It's just funny to me when our producer runs in and says he got a 4.2. I'm like, all right.
When I went to high school, I hate to be the old guy in the room, but when I went to high school, the ceiling was 4.0. What the heck is a 4.2?
Yeah, it's a 5 for some now. My children are all on a 5.
So the valedictorian is a B+ student then. A 4.2 is like a B+.
It's all. Are we doing this?
Don't get Owen started.
No, it
I don't
goes
listen.
off of
I don't
how
have
many,
kids, so
listen,
I don't know.
So listen. It goes off of how many AP classes you take and how many honors classes. That changes your grade point average. But this is a sports talk show, so we should focus on the sports right now.
We were just going over the report cards. My God.
No, we're getting into why our grade point average is different now.
I'm just saying, this is
216-474-0092.
This is all based.
If you're a teacher and you know how the grade point averages work, give us a call.
All right, so the Browns are looking to change a rule in the NFL. No, we're not looking into changing the tush push anymore. We are not looking to make field goals that are north of 60 yards, 4 points. But this came down yesterday, and a lot of people, I think, had the same reaction. I have a wild theory on it. But the Browns have proposed an amendment to Section 16.6 of the NFL Constitution and Bylaws to allow draft selection to be traded up to 5 seasons in the future. The current limit, which isn't even articulated in the Constitution and Bylaws, is 3 years. Did you even know this was on the books anyway, Daryl, that it had been 3 years? I know in the NBA you had the Stepien rules because of how this really hurt a lot of fan bases, took away their hopes and dreams because people got a little fast and loose and reckless with the trading of the draft picks. Daryl, on the books, it's been 3 years. You did know this?
Yeah. And that's, listen, I think if the Browns could have given the Houston Texans more draft picks, they might have tried.
Is that the reason that they didn't? Because it makes
they
total
were
sense
saved
now
from
that
themselves.
they gave 3 first rounds, right?
Yep.
Are we going to see teams start giving, if this goes through, Are teams looking at giving 5 first-round draft picks for a player?
Listen, let's not give Andrew Berry any more dumb ideas, okay? Oh, wait a minute. He's the one coming up with the dumb idea. My bad.
What's his grade?
Well, do we know? Is Todd
He got a
Monken
C.
in on this?
He's an average general manager.
All right, so I kind of have a wild theory on this. It's counterintuitive because I was thinking to myself, well, if I thought of myself as a really smart person and I was running a football team, wouldn't it make sense for me to create some rules that I could actually take advantage of? And I know what everybody's thinking. Oh, take advantage like what? They're going to trade how many years into the future to get Arch, right? Isn't that where a lot of people's heads were going? And I said, no. The opposite. Isn't there a player that the Browns have had that you could feasibly get a bidding war for?
You really think they're getting 5 first-round picks for Myles Garrett?
I know that players are worth.
They weren't getting 3 for him a year ago.
Oh, I think they were. I think they absolutely were. You've heard about Mason Crosby, and Myles Garrett is a better football player.
Not to then give him $40 million a year on top of that.
All I'm saying is there's always a silly team. In the past, it's been us. There's always a silly team, and the way my mind works is if Andrew Berry could get a bidding war going for the best defensive player we have in the league now that just set the sack record, that is a 2-time NFL Defensive Player of the Year, and could go down in history when all is said and done as the most accomplished and best pass rusher in the history of the game. Wouldn't it make sense to maybe see if the NFL could change some rules and you could be an all-time beneficiary of it? I'm just saying.
That is not the rule the Browns need to get changed.
What's that?
They need to get the cap computations changed. So not to get rid of Myles Garrett, but so they can get rid of Deshaun Watson. That's the rule that they need to get changed is cap computation. They can't. All right. Do I need to do that? They can't trade Myles Garrett. Can we please stop with the trading Myles Garrett talk?
They can.
But no, what if they get 5 first-round draft picks for him?
Yeah, sure they can.
No, they can't. They can't take the cap hit.
I beg to differ.
Why do we keep doing this to ourselves?
We can get 3 defensive ends and only pay them like $6 million a year,
Don't we say every time cap goes up?
And combined, they won't have 10 sacks.
What does the cap go up every year? What percent?
This year, it's above $300 million for the first time.
It's another $20 million, and then next year it'll be another. Then they're going to sell another game. They're going to go to 18 weeks.
Andrew Berry looks like a genius.
Listen, this is what Ken Carman always says. So Ken's not here. He doesn't even need to defend himself. He's been saying the cap is a myth for how many years, and it doesn't exist. And every year, I know one thing: 32 teams are under the cap. It's 100% of the time they are under the cap.
That's also league mandated that they have to be under the cap by
That's right.
the time the new league year rolls around. Look,
they all figure it out magically, and they all field football teams together.
I can't wait to see what Deshaun Watson's dead cap number is going to be for 2028.
Oh, the way they keep restructuring?
They're going to do another restructure so they can have the room to do what they need to do in free agency, which means they're kicking that cap figure down the road. But to Andrew Berry's credit, his projections, and this is why he's been doing this with these salary conversions to bonus money and kicking cap down the road, because the cap has been on this steep incline, it's actually paid off in a sense. His projections have paid off. He's been correct. Where it could have been problematic is if the league revenues didn't continue going up. Like this year, they got another...
It's amazing.
They get another 4-game package they're going to sell to YouTube or Netflix or Prime or somebody. That's hundreds of millions of dollars more in revenue, as if the league needs hundreds of millions of dollars more in revenue. But the cap in 2027 will be continuing to go up based off of that revenue, and they're going to keep adding these international games. And I'm sure they're doing stuff overseas to bring in additional money, which is why they're doing this. It's all about the money. So. Andrew Berry has projected correctly that the cap would continue this steep incline, and he could keep kicking the can down the road with some of these big contracts and these big cap figures. If Joel Bitonio retires, that's a $23.5 million salary cap hit that the Browns take. Mm-hmm. They not only did they want him to come back because he's a really good player, they actually kind of need him to come back to save them some salary cap space.
So let me get back to the original rule, though. And this isn't just a football question. This is in sports. Obviously, the Stepien rules, people in Cleveland know about those, I think, more than almost anywhere else.
Yeah,
because,
you're protecting people from doing stupid stuff.
Yeah, do you think the current rule, do you think it needs blown up?
No.
Or do you think from a fan perspective, we absolutely need these guardrails?
I think you need guardrails. I really do. Just to protect these guys. Because what's going to happen let's say Andrew Berry trades, the first round pick 5 years down the line, right? Andrew Berry's not going to be here, probably. Odds are 5 years down the line. Okay? You're just setting your franchise up. I don't think that becomes another tool for your franchise. I think having guardrails is a very good thing to protect these GMs from doing reckless things to try and save their job by giving up all these future first-round picks.
Yeah, I obviously in the NBA, this has come to the forefront once again because of pick protections and everything with the lottery.
Yeah, I don't think the Cavs have a second-round pick now until 2033 or something. They traded all their seconds. Now they can buy them. But the point is, like, even with the Donovan Mitchell trade, right? They're just now starting to pay for that trade with those first-round picks. Keep that in mind. The Donovan Mitchell trade is starting to be paid for now by the Cavaliers, and he's been here for how long? So, I think you got to be careful. I don't know what Andrew Berry's thinking, but it's an interesting proposal, and I think that you're treading into some very dangerous waters if they approve it. You need 24 teams, by the way, to approve it.
Yeah. All right, coming up 23 minutes from now, it's the latest quarterback in the anybody but Shedeur Sanders debate, but I can tell you I might surprise you with my opinion, especially those who are logging in right now to YouTube Live. But coming up next, this was supposed to be a litmus test game. Cavs, Pistons. Who's even going to be available? And what does this mean for the stretch run? Are the Cavs in trouble because of the injuries? That's next here on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
Time to
Visit the Warrensville Heights showroom or choicecabinet.com.
The very latest reactions from the Combine on our talk shows, 2020 updates, or anytime at 923thefan.com.
Damn, I looked at his thumb and it looked like my finger when I broke it. So instantly I knew that something was wrong. But it's just one of those things in this league where people go down, but you have to keep continuing.
Well, that's not good to hear. As Jared Allen's been through this, James Harden's going to be dealing with this. We still don't know definitively if James Harden's going to try to play through it, if they even have enough time for this to heal. During this stretch run, they need him. And not to mention, did you see the injury list yesterday, Daryl?
I think Brad Daugherty's going to need to play for the Cavaliers tonight. Going to have to put that microphone down and get out there.
We have Brad Daugherty join the show at 8 o'clock. So yesterday this came out, and Danny Cunningham's tweets just started populating right in front of me, and I thought it was a joke. I was hoping it was an NBA Centel. I was hoping I was getting got by someone because Keon Ellis has broken his left index finger. Dean Wade, right ankle sprain. Dennis Schroeder, right ankle sprain. And then the one that matters more than anything, Donovan Mitchell is on the injury report with a groin strain. And I know you might be looking at that going, oh, that's no big deal. I mean, just sit out some games and be okay. Donovan has had these in the past, and these have all kind of contributed to him being on fumes at the end of the season.
Yep.
And the whole point of kind of laughing off the regular season before the Harden deal or whatever it was, well, we just got to get healthy before the playoffs start. Because we got no shot to make a real run if they've got injuries, especially if we got to watch every step with Donovan Mitchell.
Right. I mean, I was looking forward to tonight just because I felt it was an Eastern Conference final primer. JB v. Kenny, right?
I was getting the boys together for a night out.
And you're right. The Donovan Mitchell groin injury, that's going to linger for a little bit. Keon Ellis with the broken finger, that's going to take about 6 to 8 weeks to fully heal. James Harden's going to need 6 to 8 weeks to heal from his broken thumb. Ankle sprains are 2 to 4, maybe 6-week type injuries. Oh my God. Depending on the severity, if it's a high ankle sprain, could be longer, I guess. Throw them in walking boots and splints. But, yeah, just real disappointing that the injury bug keeps finding this team. And you're right. I mean, we're sitting asking questions over the last week or so about incorporating guys back into the lineup because Mobley was coming back from the calf strain, right? You got 3 new guys that you traded for.
Strus is going to be coming back at some point.
Yeah, I mean, and now, like you said, Danny's tweet, you see that yesterday, and you're just like, man, this team can't catch a break. Of course, that's kind of the problem right now. They are catching breaks. Yeah. It's not the kind you want.
All right, Cavs segment brought to you by Surfside Hard Iced Tea. So I don't want to do anything to mess with, like Ken has been talking about the Cavs being penciled in to the NBA Finals. And when they made the Harden deal...
I appreciate him listening to the Sunday show, by the way.
Have you penciled?
Yes, I did.
It's still a pencil.
After the Harden trade, I said, yeah, Cavs are going to go to the NBA Finals. So they're not going to win it, but they'll get there.
So I felt so much better about them being able to make a run. And look, Darius can't even play right now. He's still not playing for the Clippers. And I don't know, at some point, is he just going to get shut down? I know they're not going to tank because they don't own their own pick.
Right.
But, the Darius thing was not going to help us.
Well, you see the videos coming out of L.A., too. I saw one earlier this week, and
he was hobbling.
Yeah, the poor kid could barely walk. He's just slowly dribbling the basketball.
And that's the original toe.
I know.
So he's got both toes are causing him discomfort.
And that's why it went from the Cavaliers requesting a first-round pick to come with James Harden to the Cavaliers sending a second-round pick with Darius Garland to L.A. instead.
So I'm not going to be a doomer on this. I'm not going to say, all right, do we have to call up Ken and get the eraser out for his penciled in NBA Finals? I'm not going to do that because it's still premature. We still have a month and a half. And 2 months before, we really make the charge into the second round of the playoffs and everything. But I do have to say, this is a huge downer. And the Cavs, like all teams, you have no shot if you're dealing with significant injuries.
Well, and it's a downer because they have been on a heater. I mean, they've been
the hottest team in the NBA.
They really have. Since the end of December, they've been playing some fantastic basketball following that slow start. And, now this stuff pops up. But look, I like what I saw the other night. Jared Allen couldn't get the shot to fall. That happens. I thought that they played their hearts out the other night.
Ellis and Schroeder.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't ask for anything more with the circumstances being what they were. So, look, we get that kind of, play here as they work their way through the injuries. I think they'll be okay. It's just disappointing that these injuries have popped up and seem to have pumped the brakes on all this momentum that they were building up. Because I was thinking, look, they could pass the Knicks, they could pass the Celtics. I don't know if they could catch the Pistons, but
I didn't think they would.
Well, you could have that conversation if they would sweep the remaining games between them, right? Just like the Guardians did against the Tigers. That's how they were able to make up all that ground in September. They kept beating the Tigers, who were sitting in first place. So you couldn't necessarily dismiss it. I had the Cavaliers penciled in for the number 2 seed in the East when it was all said and done. Now, looking at this injury report, I don't know if that's going to be possible because I think the most important thing for them to do is to get healthy.
Am I allowed to do something that's never popular, especially in sports talk radio, where the history of sports talk radio has a lot to do with hosts that go after players for missing games, right? Especially in the NBA, everybody's ripping on the players because of load management. But am I allowed to sit here and complain about the 5 games in 7 days, the third such stretch that the Cavs have had, and now they're playing another game tonight? Can we not clearly see that this does have an impact? We have the numbers to back it up. It's not like we're just pulling this out of thin air. And I know fans don't want to hear this because the players make so much money, but doesn't this have something to do with it, especially in today's game where you don't just dump? I love when people talk about, how much more physical the game was when I was growing up. Yeah, the game was more physical when I was growing up.
They used to tackle you in the paint.
But they also all stood around while they entered the ball to a post player, and there was almost no movement. And they would wait to see if a guy would double team because you had the illegal defense in. So they'd stutter step, and now they'd commit. Okay, now we throw the ball back out to the 3-point line.
By the way, been a while since I've seen an illegal defense call.
Yeah, they don't. They don't really have it. So what I'm saying is, I look at the game today. They never stop running, and they have the numbers to back this up. They run so many more miles a night than they did back then. You have to close out because every guy on the floor can hit a 3-pointer. So you're sprinting down the floor, then you're sprinting out to, whether it's in the short corner, whatever. That's all these guys are doing. And then they're Euro-stepping their way around, and they're all getting hurt. So the way that they're playing the game, and then, by the way, you have to play 5 games in 7 days. Clearly this is leading to more injuries. Just see how many guys were injured for Oklahoma City over the last week. They had their game against Detroit. We looked at the game where they beat us.
Because the Cavs lost to them last Sunday.
And did you see even a more depleted Oklahoma City team almost beat the Pistons? Their backups would make the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. Right. That's how good they are. But they're dealing with injuries. You look around the league, every team is. And I'm just saying, normally the sports talk radio guys are big, bad, and tough and like to rip the players for missing games. I'm saying, shouldn't the NBA be a little bit culpable here? I know the teams are all bitching about it, but the 5 and 7 games, especially for the third time this has happened to them, it's clearly leading to more injuries. Well, and I think the NBA might want to do something about it.
Well, not only that, but the Cavs aren't even getting calls. I mean, James Harden didn't get to the free throw line. He got hit so hard his thumb got broke. Couldn't get a free throw the other night.
And no one's going to feel bad for James Harden.
No, I'm just saying, though,
he's like the one guy. He's the poster boy for... really? You're trying to get more calls? He got 0 free throws in that Knicks game, and that almost never happens for that dude.
The NBA needs to do a couple things. They need to either shorten the regular season from the 82 games, which they're not going to do because that's too much money, or they need to expand the calendar so that they can spread this thing out because the challenge they have, all these buildings they play in share with other leagues and events, and booking them in advance gets challenging.
All right, this Cavs segment brought to you by Surfside Hard Iced Tea. Coming up in about 5 minutes, we've got another day and another quarterback to talk about. Somebody thinks this could be the Browns' plan A or even plan B. You'll get our thoughts on it next here on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
This
following the Browns playlist and 92.3 The Fan on the Odyssey app. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
Catch Afternoon Drive with Nick Wilson and Jonathan Peterlin live on YouTube each and every weekday from 2 to 7 p.m.
We got Brad Daugherty coming up 1 hour from now on the Cavaliers as they make their stretch run, how they're going to get past these injuries, and whether he is picking them with a little more strong confidence than a pencil in the Eastern Conference Finals. Also, we will get Combine coverage at 9 o'clock from Nathan Zegura. He's been there. He's dialed into the rumor mill and to what the Browns should be doing with their first pick in the first round, and whether or not they're going to be pursuing another quarterback, because yesterday, Zach Jackson, who we have on all the time, I always love when he spars with Ken Carman, who is out today. Dale Ryder is in. To see them go back and forth, it's a thing of beauty. But Kenny's not in today, but we will hear from Zach Jackson, who had this to say about the latest quarterback we are discussing, who is a hot topic at the Combine, Anthony Richardson.
He's younger than Shedeur. He's uber athletic, and he's shown the potential. He hasn't done the simple things right. He did not take the big strides as a super young, super inexperienced quarterback who came out. He's on a very short list of guys who got drafted high with that little college experience, and one of them is Mitch Trubisky. If the Browns trade for Anthony Richardson, and I know they will have discussions about it, then I believe that it would be a Richardson versus Shedeur competition in May through July or early August. Richardson would come here, be given the job to compete, be under contract at the dead minimum for a fourth-year player, salary cap-wise, and be signed for one season.
So Anthony Richardson, in any of our conversations, he's probably the quarterback we've talked about the least. However, if we're being responsible, trying to talk about how we're going to fill out a quarterback room, when Zach also in that same interview says might just cost you a fifth rounder and he's on his rookie deal, so it's essentially just a total flyer.
Yeah, you're probably going to decline the fifth-year option, which I think they have until, I think it's like early May 1st, something like that, for teams to pick up the fifth-year option on rookie contracts. So you probably decline that, keep them on the one-year prove-it deal.
And yesterday he was given permission by the Colts to pursue new ventures.
Good luck with that,
so
Anthony.
So I want to ask you this, because we've talked about Malik Willis, and people keep saying, guys, Malik Willis has the same agent as Deshaun Watson. That's not happening. They're not going to spend the money. Okay, well, we'll suspend the Malik Willis conversation for a second here.
I think
this is not an investment at all. This is easy.
Yeah, I mean, the Malik Willis thing's for us to debate, fun for us to debate and talk about. I don't know that it's very realistic as far as it actually happening, and not because of money. Look, Jimmy Haslam will spend money until the vault is empty. That's just how he is with his football team, and that's a good thing. The bad thing is the GM doesn't spend his money well. It's not a money thing with Malik Willis. It's I think it's an agent thing, and also a destination thing. There's not a lot here offensively for him.
So
to
he
work
might not
with.
even want with other offers out there. He might not want any part of being here.
This is not an attractive job.
So this is where the Anthony Richardson, who does not have suitors lined up, based on his play.
Anthony Richardson should be glad anyone will take his phone call.
Well, and that's why, if the Browns would want another, say, project, because that's what he has been in the league. What did he start 13 games in college? So the profiles, I keep explaining to people that you're going to get more of these. You're going to get more Anthony Richardsons. Malik Willis, I think, had 23 college starts.
Well, everyone's looking for the next Sam Darnold.
Right.
I mean, it's a copycat league. So, like Jared Goff, right? Sam Darnold's another example where you have these guys that they struggle early in their career. In some cases, teams give up on them. And then they find their spot. They find their niche. They take off. And then the previous fan bases bemoan the fact that the player's having success at another stop, just like we've done here with Baker Mayfield, albeit limited success in Tampa Bay, but still, same thing, right? Had to get kicked in the teeth. He was running scout team defense reps in Carolina before he ended up in L.A. with the Rams and then on to Tampa Bay.
So, this is what's going to happen every time we talk about a reclamation project, right? Because that's the talk of the league. The Geno Smiths, the Daniel Jones, the Baker Mayfields, the Sam Darnolds. Everybody wants to talk about who's the next guy, but nobody wants to take them when they're available because they haven't been reclaimed yet.
Right.
So nobody wants them because they haven't played well.
There's a risk involved.
Everybody wants them afterwards. Well, then you don't get them because other teams have them.
100%.
So, Anthony Richardson is a prime example, and he's a guy that I think this show from 6 to 10 every day, we have had no interest in Anthony Richardson. And I'm hearing from people at the Combine that said, well, why wouldn't you want to take a flyer on Anthony Richardson, considering you haven't had good play in your quarterback room? You would be in a spot where he wouldn't cost you basically anything. What, a 5th-round draft pick is what Zach speculated yesterday. The money situation is no problem whatsoever. And we're talking about, while the Combine is going on, a Combine hero. He ran one of the fastest quarterback 40 times ever. He has a huge arm. You've seen some of those flashes. And the funny thing is, judging, and I'm playing devil's advocate for a reason here, the Shador people have talked about his 2 wins at the end of the year. What if I told you Anthony Richardson went 6-5 the last time he played football, the last time he started games? What if I told you that? He won 6 games. If winning is not your priority, then what's not to like about Anthony Richardson? Well, if anybody that's actually seen him, go ahead.
He's the Jed Wills of quarterbacks.
Which means?
He's got all the talent in the world, but doesn't love the game.
So you're alluding to there was a pretty famous example of him opting out.
Yes.
At one point, which you never hear from quarterbacks.
Never.
I just, even the worst quarterbacks in the world, you never hear that.
You have to be dragged off the field kicking and screaming. And he's like, I'm good. No, I have no interest in Anthony. I would rather Deshaun Watson play for the Browns this year than go after
Daryl.
Anthony Richardson.
So obviously,
and I think we all know how enthused I am about that prospect.
Daryl, me too.
Well, when guys just look at...
Wait a minute, but this is a groundbreaking moment right now. And his team Daryl on something.
Yeah, for the first time ever.
Well, I think we're all agreeing. I'm just pointing out. I'm trying to be responsible.
The plane into the ground, let's at least do it with the guy that's already on the plane.
See, it's so funny when we talk to fans about any prospects or any guys that have been in the league. You could tell why fans could never actually be GMs, because you could never be a GM and just say,
I don't know, here in Cleveland, I think some fans could do a better job.
No, but what I mean is, Darryl, I get it, but what I mean is you couldn't do this job if you're just out on Anthony Richardson, because Anthony Richardson's going to have a job in the league. He's going to have opportunities, and as will Malik Willis. Like when I argue about Malik Willis with people, and people are like, no, I'm like, well, but Malik Willis is getting offers in the league.
Yeah.
You only get the opportunities are finite. It's not like you can just, as a GM, say, no, I'll just go to the well next year. You won't have a job next year.
I can't believe a guy with barely over 150 snaps, they're talking about giving him $30 million a year.
Well,
that is mind-blowing to me.
And I tried to call in to the afternoon show earlier this week and explain in vivid detail why it makes all the sense in the world.
You know where he should land, right? Is Miami. Their GM came from Green Bay. So
we'll get to Malik Willis in a second here, because I just want to stick on Anthony Richardson before we wrap up that conversation. You don't think coaches like Todd Monken look at those traits and go, I could coach it?
Okay.
Do you not think that's what offensive-minded guys, especially a guy like Todd Monken, who's been almost an amoeba, the way different systems, different players, that's supposed to be the good part. And if you're Jimmy Haslam, you are expecting a offensive-minded coach to get the most out of all these guys. Well, my God, Anthony Richardson, look at the traits.
It's more about traits. It is. And this is one of the blind spots, though, that the Browns have. And that's the human side, the human element. Okay? You can't quantify that with analytics. You can't quantify that with numbers and probabilities and data. Okay? Can't. And that is where Andrew Berry continuously falls short when it comes to some of these player evaluations. It happened with Jed Wills. Jed Wills had all the measurables, all the traits you're looking for. Who was the better player? It was Tristan Wirfs. Who didn't have the quote-unquote analytical measurables and whatnot, okay? So, like, the thing that really concerns me is that, yes, Anthony Richardson has the talent, he has the ability, the arm strength, all that stuff. I'm not arguing against all that. But what happened with him and the Colts? This isn't a mismanagement situation. This isn't a scheme fit situation. This isn't a misuse situation. This is a want to do it situation, okay? And if I'm the Browns, who have been struggling to get this thing out of the ditch for years and years and years, and steadily down the tracks, I am not taking a chance on a guy like that. I'm not. I can't afford to do it. I can afford to take a chance on Malik Willis. That's a chance I can afford to take.
Yeah.
Anthony Richardson,
all right, now
can't go there.
Now let me look at. So we're all in agreement. I tried to play devil's advocate, but we're all in agreement. None of us want Anthony Richardson. Can I tell you why Shador fans should absolutely want them to go after Malik Willis? Because Malik Willis,
Anthony Richardson.
Can I tell you why?
Can I tell you why? Because he'll win the competition.
Right, because you can win the competition. Right now, Shador Sanders is a better quarterback than Anthony Richardson.
Yes.
And that's me saying that. So because of that,
I think Shador Sanders.
Because they, I hope people understand, like, and the Shador people understand, they're going to bring another.
Yes.
They're going to bring another arm into this room.
They're going to bring somebody in
that is
that's
all I'm
hearing.
hearing.
Him.
And from people at the Combine that I have talked to, they're all saying the same thing. It is common knowledge around the NFL. They're bringing in another quarterback. This room of Dylan Gabriel, Shador Sanders, and Deshaun Watson is not going to be the room next year.
They are not committing to Shador Sanders as their Week 1 starter. That's very, very clear.
They will give him a shot if it's Anthony Richardson. If they bring in Malik Willis, he's not the start. It's going to be Malik Willis as a starter.
Yeah, you give that guy $30 million a year, you better believe he's starting Week 1.
All right, 216-474-0092. I do want to hear from fans on this because Anthony Richardson might be plan B, but somebody who we just heard from, Zach Jackson, says a different quarterback is going to be plan A. And while all the Combine is going around, I mean, Darryl, we got people falling asleep apparently, decision makers falling asleep at the Combine. We had a big discussion before the show. Is it even necessary in 2026 to have an NFL scouting combine? That's all straight ahead. Don't forget Brad Daugherty at 8 o'clock and Nathan Zegura at 9 here on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
It's symbolized.
92.3 The Fan on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, get the best content from our shows each and every weekday. That's 92.3 The Fan on YouTube. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
We got Brad Daugherty. He's going to get me off my downer mood at 8 o'clock over the Cavs because I've been at an all-time high after they made the Harden trade, and then I see the injury report yesterday, and I'm like, at the very least, even if this has nothing to do with that playoff run, I'm just bummed about tonight. I was making phone calls trying to get people to come out to watch the Pistons game. I'm trying to make the Cavs games like events again, especially on a Friday night and they're on the road.
Hang on, I'm checking my. I didn't get a call or text from you.
Daryl, I didn't need a photographer. People still bring this up, by the way. Ken still vilifies me. For those that don't know, and we'll get into what Zach Jackson had to say about the Browns' Plan A and what that should be.
I got a new
from
camera.
The combine. Yeah, but see, Daryl, this is the thing. I thought, here's me being a good friend to Daryl for my 40th birthday party.
Which was many years ago now.
Might need you again for the wife's 40th. I thought, you know
or
what?
Or your 50th.
That's going to be here quickly.
Me too.
I'm going to throw Daryl a bone here. We need a photographer, and then Daryl gets to come and enjoy the free alcohol and the free food and the hobnobbing, because there were some luminaries there. And yet I got made to be the bad guy by Ken because I invited him to work instead of inviting him as a friend. Well, did you not get paid?
I did.
Wasn't that nice? Don't you want paid gigs?
Quickly, too. Let's just put it this way. I got paid faster by you.
So was I a bad friend?
Then Jonathan Peterlin pays up a burger bet.
Oh, I've heard about those. Come on, Jonathan. You can't, welch on these things. You gotta come to the table. So I don't know. How am I the bad guy? Ken loves trying to pigeonhole me like that.
I appreciated it.
Anyway, so you heard the audio, and I promised this wasn't going to be any other quarterback but Shedeur Day. Because I've said, if you bring in Anthony Richardson, that's good news for Shedeur fans.
Right.
Because I think Shedeur can win a quarterback competition and would win a quarterback competition against Anthony Richardson. If this guy comes in, there will be no competition. Here's Zach Jackson yesterday on the afternoon show when it comes to Plan A and a certain Green Bay Packer quarterback.
He has taken a huge leap over 2 years. He was always a developmental player at a position of great importance and a position that, you try to develop guys. He's only 2 years older than the guys you'd be looking at in the draft. And you always pointed to this year where you landed on 6-24 and there's no sure thing. You hired a head coach who publicly values a mobile quarterback and was on the other sideline when Malik Willis played the best game of his very short NFL career last year. And I just don't see there's any other way that he would be anything other than Plan A. Can you get him? They have to try to find that out. But the way I look at it is they're one of 3 or 4 realistic teams. So you at least have a seat at the table. And in 10 or so days, we're going to know if they can get him or not.
All right, 216-474-0092. I want to hear from Browns fans right now, even the Shedeur fans. Even though I know the answer from Shedeur fans, Plan A should be just make Shedeur QB1.
You're just hating on him because you're bringing up all these possible scenarios, Lama. You're doing what you always do, just dumping all over Shedeur.
Honestly, I think that those criticisms of me are fair because I've said at the very least, like Shedeur has to earn it.
Yes.
I'm not gifting Shedeur the starting quarterback job, and I don't think any team in the NFL, based on the body of work, 7 games, even if he was not put in favorable conditions, and I will admit that, bad offensive line, didn't have a running game, bad receiver room, maybe the worst in the NFL.
Didn't get a lot
of bad coaching.
Didn't get a lot of prep work.
I am 100%. Well, that was ridiculous, and I called it out at the time. So those would be valid criticisms, but he has to earn it. He has to compete. And I just told you, they bring in Anthony Richardson. I think Shedeur's winning that quarterback derby. But in this case, Malik Wilson, I want to hear from fans what they think Plan A should be. Because Zach Jackson just said Plan A should be going after Malik Willis and get in and this is, you're going to bristle at this when I say this, the Malik Willis bidding war.
No, I'm not going to bristle at it because I got into a fight with Jonathan Peterlin on Monday over this. he's going to get $30 million a year, whether you, me, or anyone else agrees, disagrees with that or not. That's going to be the reality. And it's probably going to be a 4-year contract, too. And Jonathan called me absolutely crazy.
I loved listening to the 6 o'clock hour earlier in the week because you two and some callers went toe-to-toe on who understands NFL contracts better. And I told Jonathan when I called in the next day, I said, you guys were all saying the same thing, but you were at each other's throats about it.
Right, exactly. Like, it's probably going to be a 2-year guaranteed portion of that contract.
Yeah.
With an eject button, just in case it doesn't work. But, I mean, the agent will brag about 4 years and 120. But that doesn't mean that that's what the player's ultimately going to get.
Guaranteed money is what we're looking at.
Probably 2 years, maybe 60 to 65.
You think he'd get guaranteed how much? I was thinking in the neighborhood
I'm going on the 30-year average, right?
Okay.
So you guarantee 2 years at the 30 average. But, I don't know how you could I don't know how he could get a 4, 3-4 years guaranteed. He's a unproven commodity.
Well,
and
without
as
a doubt.
an unproven commodity, still going to get $30 million a year. That's bananas to me.
Yeah. So what I've likened it to is I continue to say he's a rookie who you've gotten the benefit of seeing him play in some big games the last 2 years.
Right.
And he's played well. So that's why that's the thing. The afternoon guys were 100% right yesterday when they're like the best thing for Malik Willis and his agent right now is that it's been so few games. And I'm like, bingo.
Right.
That's the longer you have anybody in this league, the more games you play, the more you get exposed. And we'll see what that means for Shedeur Sanders. If he gets another 16, 17 games this year, is that going to be good for Shedeur, or are we going to see more bad of Shedeur? How could we know? It's he'll have better players around him, most likely. At least that's hope. We're hoping he has better coaching around him. But for any quarterback, the more you see these guys, the more most fans end up hating 90% of quarterbacks. That's just a reality, right? That happened to Kyler Murray. The more you saw Tua, the more, and those guys both had really good moments. But the more you saw them, the more they get exposed. And so I see a lot of people think that's going to happen with Malik Willis. But the problem is, as of today, the Browns do not have a franchise quarterback. Right. Maybe Shedeur develops into one. Maybe Dylan Gabriel develops into one. I'd vote against it. I'm sure everybody in the room right now would vote against it. But the reality is you're going to keep trying to bring in arms until you solidify that spot. That's the way it has to be done.
And look, all options have to be on the table. It's why I can't completely dismiss the notion that Andrew Berry is going to investigate the Anthony Richardson thing. He's going to look and see what the market is for Malik Willis, who, by the way, has the same agent as Deshaun Watson.
Which is a factor.
And Andrew can say, remember, we gave you $230 million fully guaranteed. Please remember that in this negotiation right now. But, you have to keep taking swings at it until you finally hit. Can't fight it. It's just that's the reality they find themselves in. And the thing for Shedeur, what he has to understand right now is that if you want to take the Browns' exploration of other quarterbacks as a slight against you and another chip on your shoulder, fine. So whatever it takes to motivate you to show up in April, uber focused and ready to roll from day one. Learn Todd Monken's new playbook as quickly as possible, and get out there and show them you can do it on the practice field and go win that job. Like, that's what has to happen for Shedeur this year. Like, don't get caught up in what happened with Kevin Stefanski and whatever relationship you may or may not have had with him.
Daryl.
Don't get caught up in the fact that you were throwing to the ball boys in training camp because they ran out of wide receivers during the individual drill period. Put all that behind you because all of it's immaterial. Everything that happened, your dad showed you at Colorado, no disrespect to Dion, but that's immaterial now. It's now all on you. You have an opportunity right now to go win this job.
Yeah, all that college
stuff.
Go do it. You're right, all that college stuff.
No excuses.
There's a lot of guys who had great college careers that were non-factors in the NFL. That stuff is moot at this point. Todd in Akron, welcome to the show, Todd.
Thank you for taking my call.
Yeah.
Here go the thing. I agree with the Malik Willis, but why go after a quarterback when you don't got the receivers?
So you think...
I like the LSU guy. Baron Brown, 4.28. See, the Browns don't have receivers that stretch the field, so no matter what type of quarterback you get.
The draft is coming up. They will draft a first-round wide receiver. I think most people
Andrew
believe.
Berry loves trading for wide receivers. Let's not forget that.
Well, I think they're doing both. So, Todd, that's going to happen. So I wouldn't say don't go after a quarterback until you get the receivers. The receivers are coming. Well, we don't know if they're going to be good, but the guys that they want, they're going to be able to go get given their setup right now in both free agency and the draft.
Well, I'm throwing a name out there. Baron Brown for LSU, a 4.28. Those are the type of receivers the Browns need on both sides of the ball. Them type of receivers. 4.28.
All right, Todd, thank you for the call. We go back to the phones, 216-474-0092. Matt and Stowe seems to be steadfast against the Malik Willis idea, even though Zach Jackson said plan A. Go ahead, Matt. What's your plan?
Good morning, guys. My plan is roll with Shedeur. This guy had Ken Carman blocking for him and me and you as receivers last year. Give this guy a shot. Give him a chance with some actual talent, right? Don't go trading for some bums. Like, the plan is to go get receivers, but let's get quality receivers, right? Don't go get Anthony Schwartz again. I don't need speed. I need somebody who can catch the ball. If Jerry Jeudy could catch the ball, we'd have an A1 receiver. Dude can't catch. Let's go get some receivers.
So hold on, Matt. I'll keep you on, Matt. Here's my question, though. There's no doubt, like, Shedeur flashed. Okay? Jackson Dart flashed. Tyler Shook, he flashed. They're talking about building around him down in New Orleans.
They are going to build around him. Thank you.
Okay. Riley Leonard played in the final week of the year, and I think it was against Houston, and he flashed. Yep. So you'd basically be saying that for anybody, Matt, right? Because anybody who was quarterbacking the Browns last year was going to have the bad offensive line, was going to have the bad receivers, was going to have the bad coaching. It's like my only issue is you'd be saying that about any quarterback, wouldn't you?
This is true, but look at what Shedeur did compared to Dillon, compared to Flacco. He put up better, I want to say better numbers, but he got some dubs. He got us some wins. Those guys didn't. Look at Malik Willis. There's a reason that this guy, he doesn't play, right? He's young. I know you got to develop.
Well, he didn't play because he was. Hold on, he didn't play because of who he was behind. Had he been on about 15 other teams, he would have played last year.
So he would have. How would he have done? Why would no other teams go after him? Like you said, there's 3 or 4.
No, they are
teams.
going. But that's the thing. They are going after him now. They do feel that he's been developed in Green Bay.
3 or 4 to me, for as many teams that need quarterback, 3 or 4 isn't enough for me to go. All right, if it's a consensus like league wide, like hey, there's 10 teams that are looking at Malik. Okay. Let's be one of the 10. But for 3 or 4, I'm not sold on this guy with a 422 passing yards. Nah, that's not enough for me. Thanks,
I appreciate it, Matt. I watched.
It's a big risk.
It 100%. It is a big risk. Now, I would argue, is doing nothing risky. Ken is really big on saying, don't waste my time. Don't waste my time. As currently constituted, is this quarterback room going to end up ultimately being a total waste of time? Because I've heard some people think, and Ken was one of them, that Monken could be one and done if this quarterback room doesn't perform well this year. That would be a waste of time then.
I would argue Malik is a bigger risk than Deshaun was.
Bigger?
Yeah. Deshaun at least had a proven track record, albeit he had sat out a full season. He was a 3-time Pro Bowler, led the NFL in passing yards. Again, a lot of those came with the Texans going 4-12 and being a terrible football team. But yeah, I think Malik is a bigger risk than Deshaun.
Let's go back to the phones. We have got Vince in Chardon. Go ahead, Vince.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
What's happening?
All right, so this is my take. I don't think we need Malik Willis. I mean, we don't need another Matt Flynn situation. A guy shows a couple flashy games, and all of a sudden he's, let's pay him for 4 years. And then
could it be a Jimmy Garoppolo situation who ends up going to the Super Bowl?
Did he win it?
Well, Josh Allen hasn't won a Super Bowl. Are we out on Josh Allen?
Yeah, but Josh Allen didn't have question marks, really. Josh Allen came in.
Coming out of college, he had a slew. Coming out of his first 2 years, he had a slew of question marks. People thought he might be out of the league.
By year 2, he was already, you show the incline, and he's playing every game. It's not just, let me plug him in here, plug him in there.
But again, the thing about Malik Willis is it wasn't like he was behind a total schlub. He was behind a Pro Bowl quarterback that, how many teams would sign up for right now to get Jordan Love on their football team?
You're now benching Jordan Love to put Malik Willis on the field.
Oh, yeah, we're not benching Jordan Love. I mean, there's no way. And it's not the first time this has happened, you know. I mean, I think it happened with the Browns with Tim Couch and who was that other guy that, threw for
Kelly Holcomb?
500 yards? Kelly Holcomb. There we go. You know, I mean, it's not the first time we saw this. You know, a guy performs well for 1 game, 2 games, and then
it came at absolutely. Thanks for the call. Came at a perfect time for Malik Willis, and he's gonna seize advantage based on that small window, but in big nationally televised cold weather games and games they needed to win. They didn't win them, but he performed very, very well. All right, Daryl, hold that thought. We got to go because when we come back, we got Brad Daugherty at 8 o'clock to talk some Cavs, get us hyped up for the stretch run. But in about last night, Young John comes in and chronicles how's that new robot ump challenge thing going, and what is it ultimately going to lead to? That is in about last night, straight ahead on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. Ever wonder why Fanatics Sportsbook is America?
care.
He's a piece of crap. The kid, he sucks. He's sucked his whole career.
I got rumors about him. I couldn't please his wife, so now he's divorced.
Put a damn winning team on the field.
Now the Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima give their thoughts on what you might have missed about last night.
Young John, take it away.
Yeah, about last night's going to be pretty baseball heavy today, so let's start with the football aspect of it. In college football, this has been proposed.
Hold on. You're not beating our allegations here. Every day, all you guys do is talk football. All you guys do is talk Browns. And you come on and say, hey, it's a very baseball-heavy segment. Let's start out with some football baseball. What are you doing?
Well,
you're going to get us killed.
Well, in college football, offensive pass interference has been reduced to 10 yards like in the NFL. And I think it's a good idea because offensively, those penalties affect you way more than the defensive penalties do. Now, to prove that theory, where would you rather be on the football field? Let's say you're at 1st and 10. Your defense commits a penalty. It's 1st and 10 at the plus 35. Would you rather be the offensive team that commits the penalty 1st and 25 at the 35?
I always like having the second shot at it if I got a good quarterback. Of course, I know we're in Cleveland, so I always laugh when they debate whether to accept the penalty or decline the penalty. I'm like, 1st and 15. I like my odds. I got 3 more cracks at it. And, of course, nowadays teams go for it on 4th down all the time. So I'm always like, yeah, let's go. The rules are supposed to be, slanted towards the offense anyway. I know I'm in a fantasy world because maybe it's because I root for the Buckeyes, and when Ohio State has those opportunities.
It's not a problem for the Buckeyes.
It's not a problem. Yeah. It's a very different situation. But what are you getting at here?
But you would really rather be 1st and 25.
Yeah, because you're talking about the 15-yard penalty now. I think 15-yard penalties are a little drastic in general, especially the way it was being officiated. I know you don't see a lot of those calls in college football or even the NFL. I mean, you can basically tell your offensive player if there is a jump ball, if your quarterback, and our quarterbacks have thrown a lot of jump balls, you can tell your guy to go tackle the defensive player, and they give them the benefit of the doubt. The defensive players, they do not give the benefit of the doubt in those situations.
You throw it up to get the penalty. I mean, that's almost your best shot. Right. I do like them relaxing that a little bit in college just because, like you said, a little too punitive. I'm starting to question whether or not the spot foul in the NFL is too much.
Yeah, and it is.
But would that encourage the defense to commit more fouls?
What's the alternate?
It's not as
because they do coach it. They teach guys to drag guys down if you're beat because it's a touchdown in the NFL. I'll say this. I think the targeting in college, I wouldn't mind if targeting was if they got rid of it.
Well, they're
completely.
Adjusting that too.
Yeah, because the whole thing is if you slow these down, and this is the tough way to look at it, how many guys are truly trying to hurt other guys in college football?
You're trying to give them a good pop. Yeah. You're not trying to hurt them.
Yeah, but you
want them to feel it.
These guys all change the plane. Right. They all start getting down, and now who's to say what your intention is and whether there was malice behind it? Because the ball carrier's head goes from 6 feet in the air to 3 feet when they're going down to get the football, and then when you are coming in to either dislodge the football or make a tackle, you're now meeting them at their head, and you otherwise wouldn't have been doing that, and they're calling that targeting, and you get ejected.
You're asking players to defy the laws of physics.
Yeah. I just think that's ridiculous.
Just don't lead in with your head.
I love ABS right now in baseball, the automatic balls and strikes. We now actually have official dimensions for the strike zone. None of the letters to the knees. It's 53.5% of your height is the top of the strike zone. 27% of your height is the bottom of the strike zone. And about 50% of the challenge calls have been overturned, which I think is really embarrassing for MLB umpires. Because this is going to be a thing that's going to last forever, unlike the NFL's pass interference overturning play that only lasted a year.
What I think it's embarrassing is you reading those numbers like we should all be really into the percentages of your height.
I just can't. I can't see CB Buckner behind the plate looking for 23% from the ground up to the knees.
Well, I guess my bigger point is you're saying it's embarrassing for the umpires. Doesn't it just kind of underscore how hard their job is?
Yes.
and where they're situated, how to try to truly call balls and strikes.
On the ages of some of these umpires.
Sure.
And then the old guys are going to get washed out, and then we're going to see that, the young guys can't
They're no
do
better
it with precision either.
Yeah. Well, we saw, by the way, in the NFL, when they had replacement refs, when all we did was say how bad officials are at the highest level of football, and it's like, oh, no, these guys are the best. They're 100% the best guys. Just watch the NBA compared to college.
Right.
The NBA refs are way better than college refs. And so I always laugh at that. I think people don't realize how hard any of this stuff is. If it was easy, we would have found much better refs by now. It clearly isn't. There's nobody, and anybody that goes on these camps or any of the journalists that go try to do this, they realize, maybe I should stop bitching about the officiating.
You know what? I like the human element. I'm going to be the old guy in the room, the old traditionalist. I like the human element of the game. Hey, this is the plate umpire. He normally calls belt to the knees.
But isn't it going to...
He normally will give it the outside edge of the plate. He'll give it the inside corner. Like, I actually like that, the human element that's involved.
But don't you think, Daryl, now that we're going to be watching at home, we are going to see these guys challenge and win. It's going to stop the game every few seconds. And then we are going to look and go, well, the technology's there. Why do we need the umpire at all? And,
it's coming.
And I think this could rapidly accelerate. Not to mention, Daryl, we have to inform people. When you're watching a Guardians game this year,
no K-box on
you
there.
are not going to see that because they can't show it because then
that influences the challenge system.
It would be an advantage with the system. So we're all going to get deprived, and I think everybody in unison after about a month of this is going to go, just give us a robot.
You'll get to see the box on the replay, though, won't you? When they show the replay of the pitch, you'd think that they'd be allowed to put you just can't do it live.
Are you telling me they definitely won't have the box? I thought they would have the box, but you just wouldn't see whether it was a ball or a strike.
I would think you'd get to see it at least on the replay when you're quote-unquote debating or at least during the challenge process. But the challenge process is only a couple seconds.
It's very quick. It's very, very quick, almost non-existent. But I think this is the biggest news that's coming out of the MLB right now. John Heyman has reported that the MLB salary cap range will be between $260 million and $280 million, and the MLB salary floor range would be between $140 million and $160 million. So with that, right now, according to the payrolls, there are 5 teams that are over what the MLB projected salary cap is, and there are 11 teams that are under. And the Guardians would have to spend $65 million more to be the salary floor.
Yeah, and that's, by the way, with them losing $50+ million a year in TV revenues, that's a $100 million swing.
Yeah.
That would probably lead to the Dolans saying, okay, it's been nice owning the team. I'm going to go take that lump sum now.
I think they're going to do that anyway.
But the payroll would actually increase overall across the entire Major League Baseball, according to this projection, from $5.84 million to $5.84 billion to $6.1 billion.
You're giving a lot of numbers, but what I can tell you is,
I'm
John,
a little lost in the numbers.
Well, what I can tell you is when I saw those numbers reported by John Heyman, just like you did, I said, oh, that's a nice fantasy number up top. That's a nice fantasy number on the bottom, because none of this is going to end up happening. They are going to have a ugly, bitter, tumultuous work stoppage that is going to totally kill the momentum that this brand has been building over the last few years.
94.
I think it's going to be really ugly, and I do not think they are going to walk away with a salary cap when all is said and done.
They won't. They'll never do it. And then the last one here, Stephen.
I think we got to go. We are out of time.
No more.
You know what? We will save that. Give us a tease. What were you going to say about
Rhys Hoskins is getting the start today in spring training. I want to tell what Cleveland's going to get in Rhys Hoskins.
From a Philly fan, John, who would know firsthand. That's it for About Last Night. Good job, John. We appreciate a lot of numbers. Let's ease up on the numbers. It's early in the morning.
It's too early for math.
I'd like between 27 and 53% more numbers.
Okay, we'll see if we can get down to it. The arithmetic. This is why you got a 4.2. But it's also why his buddy got a 4.6 and got into the Ivy Leagues and isn't doing radio in the mornings in Cleveland, Ohio. When we come back, we are checking in on Brad Daugherty. I know he made the trip to Detroit. I don't know whether or not he went out last night. Hopefully, we will track him down to talk about whether or not the Cavs' injuries are going to be a big hindrance in them making the big stretch run, and how he's feeling about James Harden here in Week 3 after the trades. That's all straight ahead here on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
This is an Odyssey Sports.
Daugherty app. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
Get the latest Cavs news up until tip-off. The Afternoon Drive. Weekdays starting at 2. Cleveland's Sports Radio. 92.3 The Fan.
Cavaliers in action tonight, or at least what's left of them, given their steady diet of injuries, unfortunately. But I'm still pumped. I said I was going to get some of my buddies together. We're going to go out. So I want the Cavs. These games down the stretch need to be events. And they're going up against Detroit. They're going up against J.B. Bickerstaff. And to talk about that and so much more, joining us on the Make It Right, Call Kyle Wright Hotline, Cavaliers legend, Brad Daugherty. And I got to cut right to the chase, Brad. We appreciate you coming on. Daryl has a question right out of the gates for you.
I just want to know if he's available to play tonight.
I mean, what is going on right now, Brad?
Oh my goodness, man! It really. I had the same reaction. We're just getting to where we're building some momentum, and it's so important. That first week of March, you really want to be playing some of your best basketball. March goes so quickly, and you play, 15 to 20 games in the next 40 days. And so you've got to be firing on all cylinders. You got to be making sure you're getting guys stabled up so they know how we're going to roll into the playoffs. You get your 8 guys that are consistent and you're executing with. Then you play your bench guys. And obviously you're trying to position yourself to get home court advantage if you can. Yeah, it's just all out the window now. And, I was really pleased with the way we played at Milwaukee a couple of nights ago. I thought that the guys who played extremely well. And what that does is that tells us, we may have the deepest team in the NBA. And so that's exciting. But, man, I'm with you. We've got to get healthy. I said it at the beginning of the year. I said it at the middle of the year. And I'll say it again. The team in the Eastern Conference that gets to the playoffs healthy will win the Eastern Conference. That's just a fact. And so right now we got to get some guys healed up. And, you go through that process and you're kind of starting all over with trying to get your execution down and doing those types of things. But I was really pleased, like I said, with the play I saw a couple of nights ago from the guys that were eligible to play or available to play. They played hard. They played smart. And, it's a ball game. We should have won that ball game. And so, it's going to be a tough one tonight. I'll guarantee you that.
Brad Daugherty, right now joining us on the hotline. So I had to go back to the archives. In 1988, in the playoffs, you played with a plastic cast on your right thumb. Do you remember what it was like trying to play with the digits in a little bit of pain and trying to rehab that? And what is it going to be like for James Harden, provided it is the offhand?
Yeah, I dislocated my thumb and had a little crack right at the base of where it kind of popped backwards and it cracked at the base. And so, it was painful. Back in our era, though, it was different. These guys today have different modalities. We kind of took little shots and stuff like that. So it didn't hurt as bad. You just played. I think the biggest thing, it didn't bother me that badly. I was able to still play. As a matter of fact, I think in that series I made a couple of free throws in Chicago to win the game. And so the problem that I see for James, though, is James is an elite passer of the basketball. And I was with him yesterday and watching, and, it's just going to be a little bit cumbersome to just make those really – I mean, he makes some exquisite passes. It's unbelievable. I mean, his passing is up there with Magic Johnson and John Stockton and Steve Nash when he's on. And I think it's going to hinder that just a little bit. I think that good thing about James, though, is he's a big guy. He is sturdy. But, guys are going to come after that hand and test it and see how sore it is and see if they can get him off of his game, because he is just dynamic with the ball. And I think that's the difference. I didn't have to handle the basketball as much. He's going to, he's our point guard basically. And so we'll see tonight. He's a gamer though. This guy, I was talking to some guys the other night, and actually I was talking to Doc Rivers. And, they had their issues at Philadelphia, and it didn't end well. But like Doc said, though, he said this guy is one of a few. He is a gamer. He loves to play basketball. And yesterday, he was going through the drills. He there's no load management with this guy. If he can play, he is going to show up and play. And he's going to show up and play tonight, I believe. So we'll see. It's going to be tough. But, hopefully Kenny can utilize him, take a little bit of pressure off him having to handle the ball the entirety of the time. And, Kenny's just going to have to come up with some methods, which he's had to do all season long. We've been hurt all year long. And we've kind of figured out a way, but it's not been pretty.
Jared Allen started getting it going just before the James Harden trade and really has gone to another level. But I want to ask you about Evan Mobley. There's been some thought out there that there's more to get out of him. What do you see? What have you seen from him in recent weeks, and with all these injuries piling up the way they have? How incumbent upon it of him to carry this thing for the Cavs? Yeah, I've never been a proponent of Evan going to this mythical next level that everyone talks about. That just became a runaway freight train. I've always said, and I stick by the fact that Evan is as good a player as he's going to be, and that's really good. He's an elite defender. He plays in space extremely well, and he's a winning basketball player. The national media and all these people jumped on this. Well, he's got to go to the next level. I don't know what that means. He's never going to be a dynamic ball handler because of his length. And so tried to force that narrative. That didn't work, which I knew it wouldn't work. So Evan is the type of player that will be extremely successful with a guy like James Harden. I want to see a guy like Evan slashing more to the basket, catching the ball, moving. You post up Evan, and I don't think that's his strong suit, but you take advantages of mismatches and post him up. Evan needs to move. You need to set screens and scrub his guy off and have him moving towards the basket with his length. And I've always said it ad nauseum about him shooting jump hooks with both hands. I think he would just be dominant. So, the calf injury he has, that's a nagging injury. And it's just one of those things that it's just so easy. It's another one of those soft tissue injuries that you see today in today's game that just it's always there. And so I know he's working hard. He's put a ton of effort into trying to get back to the level that we saw him at, several weeks ago before he got hurt. And, he's going to have to come back and give us some solid minutes and really help bolster this thing, because we've got some guys, we've got several injuries here that have popped up, and he's a catalyst. He's key to our basketball team in many ways. And, I've got a lot of confidence in him. I think with Evan, I want to see it start on the defensive end, though. I'm not worried about him offensively. I never thought Evan was going to be a guy that scored 30 a night. It's just not going to happen. And if anyone thinks that, that's fine. You can come up with anecdotes to get to that if you want to. But I think if Evan scores 18 a night and blocks 4 shots and has 10 rebounds and 2 steals and 3 deflections and 5 intimidations, we win the basketball game. Those are the numbers I'm looking for. So if we can get him back and get him back to that level, man, it's going to be great for our basketball team, and we're going to need it. And Jared Allen's been playing just phenomenal basketball. I give Jawad Williams, assistant coach, who's been working with Jared this year, a ton of credit. Jawad was a heck of a player, had tremendous footwork, and I just think he's unleashed Jared. And Jared's playing with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder,
because all you mean media guys have been talking bad about him all season long and last year. And I think he's got something to prove. And, boy, he's going out every night and just lighting guys up. And that's what we're going to need. Third week of April, we're going to need that.
I know it's a three-point game these days. Are you a fan of these big guys shooting the three, though? Like the Cavs were trying to get Evan to shoot threes. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, do you like that in the game, or you think they should go back to the old days of putting the big guys on the blocks and letting them go to work?
Yeah, that's not going to happen. I'll tell you that right now. It's a volume game today. So if you don't have the quantity of threes made during a game, you're going to get beat. So you have to do that. I've got no problem with it. I think that a guy like Evan or a guy like Miles Turner or Thomas Bryant, they need to shoot threes. That's a dynamic part of the game. It's when you get to a guy and you try to make him a small forward or a two guard, and he's not. I mean, there's still the game that has to be played throughout the paint, and just like Jared Allen's showing you, the game is if you're willing to play in that space, and the difference in today's game, there's so much room in the paint. I mean, you play in today's game, if you're a big guy and you can move, you're automatically going to get a double-double every night. There's so many long rebounds, and without the people, the guys being able to put their hands on you to stop you and to slow you down, there's just no reason for you not to average a double-double. No reason at all. And I'm talking about guys who wouldn't be considered, really, really good players. I'm just talking about the average big guy today should average a double-double. And going back to three-point shot, that's a part of the game. If you're a big guy and you don't shoot the three a little bit, I think you kind of hurt your team because you need those shots. I mean, we play against teams. I remember last year Boston Celtics shot 63 threes in a game. Yeah. You just got to. You have to. You have no choice. And if but I think the Cavaliers are a team that, with Donovan Mitchell and James Harden and Sam Merrill, you can take advantage of Evan and Jarrett and post up and go through that and make that a viable part of your offense and make the defense have to stay home and tend with those guys and pay for it if they don't. And then once you soften that defense up to trying to solve the pick and roll, trying to catch up with Jarrett rolling to the basket or Evan slashing, now you kick it out to a wide open Sam Merrill. You kick it out to a wide open Donovan Mitchell. And it just drives the defense crazy. So it's today's game, and I think these guys are unbelievable athletes, best athletes in the world. And it's a different style of game. So you just have to accept it and try to be the biggest part of it you can. But I'm not crazy about guys who've become just solely 7-foot 3-point shooters. I don't know if you need that.
Brad Daugherty, unbelievable perspective right now. So I know you talked about Jared Allen. So in the month of February, 23 points, 12 rebounds, 73% from the field. I think that's almost Eastern Conference Player of the Month type stuff that we're seeing from him. So the question I have in the playoffs is, how can he and Evan play together when it counts? Is there a way Kenny Atkinson can figure that out?
Yeah, I think you start them together and then you play them in shifts. The thing with the playoffs, it's still a lot like it's always kind of been the same. That part of the game hasn't changed too much other than the threes, but it's half-court basketball. And what you have to be able to do in that half-court is get a good shot. What happens in the playoffs, you saw it last year, is the tempo is much quicker than it was 20 years ago. It used to be just a dog fight. And, I mean, it was like playing in mud. But now teams come down and they get their shots up relatively fast, but it's through execution. It's not just coming down and jacking up a shot. It's through execution. But they're trying to do it in an expedited manner because the defensive side of the basketball is not as physical. It's physical because these guys are big and long and great athletes, but they're not putting their hands on you as much. They're not bumping you as much. So teams are trying to get through executions and get a shot up where they want it. and then force you to play quicker in the half court. And so that's where Evan and Jarrett could be really dominant, because we've got to be a better defensive rebounding team. We've come a long way since the beginning of the season. And the one thing that I think where they play together in spurts, if they're both healthy, that makes us a dynamic team and could really help us in the playoffs is defending that dribble drive. You know, at the beginning of the season, I thought our team just gave up too many uncontested layups. I mean, it was just too many. And Kenny corrected that, and Evan and Jarrett are a big part of that correction. And now you've got a 6'5" point guard, who can put his body on that other point guard and slow that basketball down. So now you've got great opportunity to rebound the ball. And so that's where I think Jarrett and Evan can be dominant, is on that glass. Just if we can dominate that defensive backboard, that is possessions. And you have to out-possession people if you're going to beat them in today's NBA. So I think that's where they can be effective as a tandem. And then you play them in shifts separately throughout the game until you get back towards the end of the game where you got to get stops. You put them both back in the game.
Awesome stuff. Brad, I really appreciate it. We got to do this again because I got 1,000 more questions for you. Plus, when Ken gets back in, he's got NASCAR questions for you. And I know you got to get ready because tonight, if Bickerstaff's team pulls out some of those shenanigans, I know you might want to jump over the table to help out. Let's make sure no suspensions for our Cavaliers after tonight, okay?
We don't need any of that. We got enough problems. We got to stay healthy, so we don't need any suspensions. Absolutely.
All right, there he is. Thanks, Brad. We'll do it again.
All right. Take care.
Brad Daugherty on the Make It Right. Call Kyle Wright hotline. He said that he personally saw James Harden working out yesterday. No load management. He said, quote, he's a gamer. He thinks he's going to play tonight. I'm telling you what, the bandwagon for James Harden, if he's going to play through this and he can demonstrate that he can, I think fans are going to start loving James Harden more and more and more because he is a guy who is going to try to fight through this stuff down the stretch for this Cavalier team to try to help them get into the playoffs and make their run to the Eastern Conference Finals and maybe beyond. So to react to that, also some stuff he said about Evan Mobley. And what does Stephen A. Smith have to say about the Browns quarterback situation and Deshaun Watson? That's all straight ahead here on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
became a runaway freight train. I've always said, and I stick by the fact that Evan is as good a player as he's going to be, and that's really good. He's an elite defender. He plays in space extremely well, and he's a winning basketball player. The national media and all these people jumped on this. Well, he's got to go to the next level. I don't know what that means.
I thought it was incredible stuff from Brad Daugherty, especially to hear a big man who understands, and he was ahead of his time. I mean, Brad Daugherty in today's game, being able to shoot the ball and some of the stuff he could do even off the dribble, you did not see big men with the capacity to do that. Back then, there were a few guys, Arvydas Sabonis, and obviously Olajuwon had his terrific post moves and could jab step a little bit. But Brad Daugherty, I could teleport him right into today's game.
Absolutely.
And and plus, his back was such an issue. Imagine in today's world.
I was kind of sort of joking about his availability because, he could actually fit in pretty well with the way he plays. But no, the Evan Mobley comments there were eye-opening, especially when he said, hey, if you're expecting him to be a 30-point per game player, you're completely missing the point of Evan Mobley. And I think that when you talk about that next level, I think that that's what fans and some media are thinking about, Anthony, is they're thinking about increasing the scoring numbers. Mm-hmm. Okay? And I really enjoyed his perspective on that whole thing, even opened my eyes a little bit, because that's what I think when you're talking about going to the next level. I'm thinking on the offensive end. He already won a Defensive Player of the Year. I think defensively he's an elite player. It's on the offensive side of the floor that, I say maybe there's another level for him to go, but Brad vehemently disagrees, and I get why he does and feels that way.
It's interesting because some people will listen to what Brad Daugherty just said and say, why are you putting a limit on Evan Mobley? Because we have thought about him since the day he was drafted and since the day we saw him do some really cool things, full court, being able to dribble a little bit. Obviously, it's something he's still working on, and we'd like to get him a handle, more of a handle over his handle, to be honest.
Right.
Tightening that up over time, but he's demonstrated so much of the quarterback stuff we talk about.
You can tell, though, he's worked on that, by the way.
Well, yeah, for sure.
You can really see that he's...
This is the stuff we talk about, like with the projects like Anthony Richardson and Malik Willis. Like maybe down the road, those guys, if they put it all together. Well, NBA fans look at these things the exact same way. And the way that we've all been looking at Evan Mobley, we kept saying unicorn. And what people were representing with that line of thinking was Giannis. Let's be honest. People were comparing him to Giannis, even noting that when he struggled in his first few years with a lot of offensive moves, they'd go, look at Giannis. He struggled. Right. Being able to do all that. And then he developed into the player he is today. Ironically, Giannis cannot shoot. I mean, he just has given up being able to shoot the basketball. And yet he still dominates games when he plays, still puts up 30,
but
still
Evan
gets
can
inside.
Shoot a little bit.
And Evan can. Evan does have some touch. It kind of comes and goes. I think it's always been a comfort, a rhythm. It's also been tough. Evan did not get drafted by a terrible team where it was going to be, we are getting you 25 shots a night.
Right.
Figure it out over time.
Where he's just going to fill up the box score with points and rebounds.
And if he would have been given that, maybe you could make a couple of assessments. Maybe some of the individual stuff, you'd see better numbers, but he'd be a loser because they'd be on a losing team.
Right. And look, I'm not crazy about Evan at the three-point line, but again, going back to what Brad said, that's the game today. And, it's different. And if you're a big guy, you have to be able to shoot a little bit. And Evan, again, has shown the ability to work on that part of his game, shooting from the perimeter. But I equate the Evan next level stuff to the conversation we would have about Myles Garrett every year, right? Well, Myles taking it to the next level and the next level and the next level. And there are times where I would sit there, similar to Brad with Evan, and I'd say, I don't know what the next level is with Myles Garrett. Right? I don't know if you can get more out of Myles Garrett. And then inevitably what happens, we get more out of Myles Garrett. So I guess maybe that's the lens with which I'm looking at Evan Mobley. Yes, I recognize he's an elite defender. I recognize that he has the potential to be a top 10, top 5 player in the NBA. I always just, I guess, feel like you can get more and more, out of the guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's for me, like, the next level, just getting more and more out of Evan.
Now,
on
the hard part
offensive end.
is it's not happening this year. So it's not going to be unicorn Evan Mobley, put the ball in his hands and get out of the way by the playoffs. And Brad obviously talked about him slashing more. But I thought it was very interesting when I talked about how is Kenny Atkinson supposed to use him and Jared Allen, who I said is a legitimate contender, and I never thought this would come out of my mouth, for Eastern Conference Player of the Month in the month of February. He's shooting 73% from the field. And he's had one bad game, and it was Oklahoma City.
And this isn't just a James Harden trade thing. He was playing
before,
well
good point.
Before that trade, and then it just seems when they got James Harden, it went up in an entirely another level. But he was shooting over 70% before that trade for a stretch.
He was. And so, what was just told to us by Brad Daugherty is, okay, you start them both, then you stagger, and then in fourth quarter, based on the matchups, that's how you figure out. But I could also see some lineups when you go offense for defense where Evan Mobley might not be on the floor late in fourth quarters. But again, it's offense for defense. There's enough stoppages. You get him right back in defensively. And while, maybe there's some disappointment in that, given where we thought he would be at this time, if it's the best way for this team to roll, then maybe it makes sense.
There's your next level. So he can be on the floor, and you don't have to take him out based on a matchup.
Meanwhile, we've got Nathan Zegura joining the show at 9 o'clock. He is at the Combine. This got sent to my inbox overnight. Apparently, Stephen A. Smith on First Take had some thoughts on Deshaun Watson.
I'm going to bring up the name Deshaun Watson for this reason. When I see some of these stats for a guy that got paid $230 million guaranteed, 19 starts, a 9-10 record, 61% completions, 19 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, and an 80 passer rating. And I'm thinking about this. Among 50 quarterbacks with at least 500 pass attempts since 2022, Dan and Kimberly, he was 42nd in completions, 48th in pass yards per attempt, 42nd in passer rating, and had the second worst sack rate behind only Justin Fields. My God, how awful can you be? There's nowhere to go but up, and Deshaun Watson is still getting paid. Let me look on national TV and tell Deshaun Watson this. Considering the Cleveland situation, combined with the money you're still owed, if you can't win the starting job in Cleveland this year, you need to retire.
Stephen A. Smith on First Take yesterday. Daryl, if it's an honest quarterback competition, yesterday Ken said he thinks he would beat Shedeur Sanders in a fair and balanced quarterback competition. Now, we haven't seen him post-injury, post-surgeries.
Yeah, I haven't seen enough of him. Like, I can't make any judgment based off of hearsay.
Mm-hmm.
I need to see it in training camp. You know what I mean? Like, I need to see something other than just him throwing it on air. Yeah, he throws a pretty football on air right now. Not going to argue that.
Did he? Are we sure? Last time I saw him, I didn't even think we saw that.
Looks great on Instagram, too. I need to see it with my own 4 eyes before I'm going to sit here and say he's beating out Shedeur Sanders for the starting job. Because right now, I think Shedeur, as the room is presently constituted, I would say if Shedeur can't win the starting job right now, shame on Shedeur.
Really?
Yes.
Even just year
Yes.
2, Shedeur, he's only played in 7 games.
Listen, Deshaun hasn't played anything resembling high-level football for 6 years, okay?
That's a long time.
Sat out a full season, then suspended 11 games, then missed half a season with a shoulder injury. Missed a half a season with, ruptured Achilles, and then needed the full season because he ruptured it again. Like, it's been a long time since this guy has played. And by the way, every time he's come back, remember when he came back from the suspension, game was moving fast for him, right? Every time he comes back, the game's moving too fast for him. The clock is too slow for him. I have no expectation that Deshaun Watson's going to be able to do much of anything. He's going to look great in practice. That's my expectation. Going to look great in practice.
But if he looks great in practice, then he's going to win the starting job, is he not?
Well, you enjoy getting caught up in how he looks throwing against no defense on the field. I'm not going to, I'm being realistic.
You're right. We have fallen for that in the past with Browns quarterbacks. Absolutely.
Brandon Whedon was breaking clay pigeons on ESPN Sports Science, and we got all excited about that. Then came out during practice, was lighting it up. Myself included, thought he might have been the next Joe Montana in the making. Then you put a defense on the field in regular game action, and it's a complete disaster. So, listen, this isn't me hating on Deshaun. This is me trying to be realistic about the situation. The situation is this guy hasn't played a full season in 6 years, and every time he has come back from missing time, it has taken him a long time for the game to slow down for him again. I have no expectation that he's going to do much of anything this year.
All right, 216-474-0092. We got Nathan Zegura coming up at 9 o'clock from the Combine. What kind of rumors is he hearing? What kind of addition to the quarterback room might there be? And Deshaun Watson, can he really win a quarterback competition if it's fair and balanced? Plus, I need the people who know how to deal with skunks. Owen needs your help, and he needs it at 10:30 today. That's straight ahead on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
one time has exhibited the skill set at an elite level, I think you're always going to give them the benefit of the doubt that somehow we might be able to get that out of them again.
This is the radio home of the Cleveland Browns. 92.3 The Fan.
Let me look on national TV and tell Deshaun Watson this. If you can't win the starting job in Cleveland this year, you need to retire.
That was Stephen A. Smith on First Take ESPN yesterday. As I do think there are people around the NFL very mixed on what the Browns are going to do because there's been no commitment. Can you agree with me on that? I know there are people on YouTube that get very upset when I say this. I said the next time Andrew Berry commits to Shedeur Sanders being the starter will be the first. He has kept it open, and I have literally no problem with that.
Yeah.
I mean, some would say it doesn't even matter. But I do think, like, if this were the Baker Mayfield situation after he came in his rookie year, there would be no debate. It'd be Baker's number one. I think the more rational Shedeur people would understand, yeah, he's got to earn it. And I think that would be cool. If he went out there and battled with somebody the stature of Deshaun Watson and won that competition, that would speak so highly. I know what people think of Deshaun, but I'm just saying, winning an actual competition.
Yeah, but the haters would just say Deshaun fell off a cliff. Like, because you know how it goes.
But
no matter what Shedeur does, the haters are going to find some reason to dismiss it.
They will. As somebody who's been called a hater before, I know the tactics. But in the end, it wouldn't matter. He'll get to start, and then we'll be able to assess him fairly based on real games, not reps in practice, not a quarterback competition, which every time the Browns have ever had a quarterback competition, what have we said? This was not a fair quarterback competition. Last year was supposed to be a quarterback competition, and then we didn't realize till later, they're running two simultaneous competitions.
Right.
One is for the starter.
One's for the backup.
One for the backup.
Yeah. I hope that this, because they're going to have a quarterback competition. I just hope it's like two guys. Pick two guys, let them duke it out, and that's it. None of this 3- and 4-man nonsense that you pulled last year. Because last year, even though you said it was a 4-man competition, my 4 eyes told me it was a 3-man quarterback competition. Shedeur had no chance to win that thing. He was, and everything coming out, he's so far behind. He's got a lot of catching up to do. There's a lot of development there. Dylan is so far ahead of him. We got the veterans. Like, there was every reason in the book for them not to give Shedeur a legit chance. This year, though, there's every reason for them to give him a chance. And so that's why I say it really is, at least from my standpoint, I think that there's a tremendous opportunity here for Shedeur, regardless of what the rest of this quarterback room looks like, unless, with one caveat, if they bring in Malik Willis.
Well, so that's a perfect segue because I was just thinking, and I've said this to the Shedeur people, you should be rooting for the team, obviously not to bring in Malik Willis because then there will be no competition.
Right.
That will be a significant investment, and then he will be the starter. On the flip side of that, somebody like Anthony Richardson, who yesterday was granted the opportunity to speak to other teams, if that's the case, then that's a quarterback competition, and I think Shedeur would, I don't want to say easily win, but I think he would, in the end, would look pretty good in that scenario. And yesterday, Zach Jackson from Indy at the Combine, who's hearing things, had this to say about why Richardson might make sense.
He's younger than Shedeur. He's uber athletic, and he's shown the potential. He hasn't done the simple things right. He did not take the big strides as a super young, super inexperienced quarterback who came out. He's on a very short list of guys who got drafted high with that little college experience, and one of them is Mitch Trubisky. If the Browns trade for Anthony Richardson, and I know they will have discussions about it, then I believe that it would be a Richardson versus Shedeur competition in May through July or early August. Richardson would come here, be given the job to compete, be under contract at the dead minimum for a fourth-year player, salary cap-wise, and be signed for one season.
So, again, people driving into work when they hear Anthony Richardson, because all we've ever seen out of Anthony Richardson is a guy can't hit layups.
Please keep the car on the road.
Right.
Both hands on the wheel.
Right. You are going to hear that name and go, what? What are we doing? Last year it was Kenny Pickett that we brought in, and we drafted Dylan Gabriel, and now we're throwing darts at like Anthony Richardson. So I tried to play devil's advocate early in the show. I do not want Anthony Richardson, but I kind of understand why teams that don't have an established franchise quarterback, and I think, what would you say, a third of the league right now does not have an established franchise quarterback, and we right now, until Shedeur or anybody else proves otherwise, we don't have one. Those teams are all...
Well, we haven't had one since Bernie Kosar.
No, you've had one. You had Baker. Come on.
Okay, yeah, 53 straight starts.
Yeah.
Not the franchise. Didn't get second contract. So
I get
not
it.
The franchise
I get it. But I'm just,
number one overall pick.
I'm just saying that at the situation they're in, of course they're going to look into
they have to.
Other quarterbacks.
It would be malpractice for Andrew Berry this offseason not to explore options.
And here's the other thing.
And here's the thing. Shedeur Sanders should be the chip on Shadeur's shoulders
both
right now.
dueling. Here's the things.
Not anything that happened last year, not anything that happened in the draft process. It's they don't think I'm good enough yet, and I need to go show them this offseason I'm the man. That needs to be his motivation this offseason. Nothing else.
But here is what I do have to caution against when we just eliminate quarterbacks. So I keep seeing, why would anybody want Anthony Richardson? He hasn't played well yet. And you notice what Zach threw in there, and this is important to evaluators. He said he's younger than Shedeur Sanders.
Yep.
So that, and when we talk about Malik Willis, we talk about a guy who hasn't really taken hits, is still very young.
Not a lot of tread on the tire.
Right.
Also, not a lot of film.
No, not a lot of film, which is he's benefiting from right now.
He's going to get $30 million a year,
Anthony Richardson, it's the opposite. There is a lot of film. He started north of double-digit games.
Is it wrong that I think of Malik Willis like a Jimmy Garoppolo? Like, remember when the Patriots flipped him? Not a lot of film on him. Most of it's preseason, right? Spot stuff. But Jimmy was able to, make something of that.
That's one of the few test cases that work out.
Yeah.
Most of these don't ever work. I think you're going to see more and more, by the way, in the NFL, so you should get used to this.
That's why I'm so cautious about this.
But you can't just rule them out summarily, because if Anthony Richardson was good at all, you'd never have a chance to get him. We would never have a conversation about these guys. So again, Anthony Richardson is almost kind of treated like a rookie, because you could say it all went poorly where he was. It was a disastrous situation. Plus, he was a project. And a lot of this is going to be said about Shedeur if he washes out of Cleveland, too. You know, I have to amend something I had said previously. I know we got to go, and Nathan Zegura is going to join us in about 6 minutes from the Combine. But when Shedeur, earlier I'm like, man, if it doesn't work out in Cleveland, that could be it. He was a fifth-round pick. I don't think that anymore. I think you do get more opportunities. And as long as he can put some stuff on film, like he has last year, even if the numbers are bad and he washes out of Cleveland, he might buy himself another opportunity. All right, from the Combine, a lot of gossip, a lot of rumors when it comes to the Browns. What is Nathan Zegura of the Browns Radio Network hearing? We will go to him next on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. It's Anthony Lima for...
Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
There's only one place to hear breaking Browns news. This is the radio home of the Cleveland Browns, 92.3 The Fan.
Oh, the rumors, the speculation, all in Indianapolis. Didn't they want to remove this event from Indy at one point?
Yeah, they've been trying for years and years and years, but Indy's just set up perfectly for it.
It's a perfect town for conventions.
They keep extending it. Like, that's the thing. They've been trying to take it on the road, like the draft and Super Bowl and all that kind of stuff, but Indy keeps winning in the end, and good for them because it's a perfect spot.
I actually think Cleveland has a lot of good things going for it. One thing they screwed up. They needed to
connect the stadium to the convention center.
It all need to be connected. Then you could have been just like Indy. And in Indy right now, Nathan Zegura, he's covered a bunch of these combines. He's on the Make It Right, Call Kyle Wright hotline. Nathan, are you hobnobbing? Are you jumping around, bar hopping, sharing stories with all the NFL luminaries?
I certainly was. I'm now back. I have returned from Indy Vegas for the Combine, and it was a great time. That's it. What's so cool about the Combine, really more than any other event in the NFL, is just that everybody is there. Everybody who covers the league, every coach, every GM. Well, not everyone. The Rams, obviously, the less neatification of the Combine, as they say. They don't go. Some other coaches don't go. But really, just the whole NFL world descends there, and you're able to kind of go around, see old friends, and then talk to people, get people's takes on, obviously, the Cleveland Browns and this offseason. And just it really is. It's an awesome event. It's kind of like I say, NFL Disneyland in the sense that, everybody is just there to talk football, have fun, catch up with old friends, and really just kind of get ready for the start of the new year. Everybody's got optimism. Everybody's got hope. And it's pretty cool.
And you got Aaron Glenn falling asleep while watching the Combine, allegedly.
I saw that.
Allegedly. We need other angles. But it's like Jerry in the cab, picking his nose. We need other angles on these things. So, Nathan, when it comes to the Browns, obviously quarterback is going to be front and center. How are they feeling about their current room? How aggressive are they going to be with somebody else? But just overall, what are you hearing about the quarterback market when Anthony Richardson is told he can pursue, some other teams? He can talk to the stuff about Mac Jones and obviously Malik Willis.
Yeah, so in talking to people there, kind of the big dominoes to fall, first of all, Malik Willis, who is going to be the free agent prize in this offseason, and really because it's such a weak quarterback class, that he's going to get a lot of attention. They think he's going to get north of $30 million for a guy who started 6 games. Now, there are people who are very, very big Malik Willis fans. The sense coming out of the Combine that I got is that he's going to end up in Miami, that he is going to go down there. All the people who went from Green Bay down to Miami, they're making moves right now, trying to clear space. And that was kind of the sense that I got, is they think Malik Willis is Miami bound. Now, Arizona with Mike LaFleur, brother of Matt LaFleur, is another potential landing spot. And I know there are other teams that will be interested in him. I think some will be priced out. For example, I think for the Browns, it's just going to be too rich of a price tag if they are, in fact, interested in Malik Willis. But that was kind of the talk there. The other one is that people think Kyler Murray is going to be cut. And because of the fact that Arizona has to pay his contract, he could really sign somewhere on a 1-year minimum deal and pick where he wants to go. So that is something that's interesting. There's still a lot of belief in Kyler Murray's talents. There's obviously a lot of questions about maybe some of the things around him that have prevented him from being maybe as good as people think his talent should lead him to be. And so that will be interesting. Mac Jones, I think that what I was hearing was that a second-round pick is the starting point for Mac Jones, because the way the Niners look at it, they're not paying him anything. If Brock Purdy were to get hurt again, the way that he stepped in and performed for them last year, they feel very comfortable with Mac Jones as their starting quarterback filling in. And then their belief is that he showed enough even in this 1 year that even if they keep him this year, and let's say Brock Purdy plays all 17 games and they have a great season, somebody's going to pay Mac Jones good money to be their starting quarterback after coming out of the Kyle Shanahan finishing school. And that's interesting. We always say it's a copycat league, and people are saying, how do we find the next Sam Darnold? Well, one of the things that people were talking about there quite a bit is that, you look at where Sam Darnold was before he went to Minnesota. It was with Kyle Shanahan. And quarterbacks who are with Kyle Shanahan, who are with Sean McVay, those are the ones kind of coming out of that finishing school. Matt LaFleur, that's the hope with Malik Willis. Kevin O'Connell, kind of as Daniel Jones credits him a little bit. Now, it hasn't worked with J.J. McCarthy there, but that they think Mac Jones is going to get a big enough contract at 2 years that at a minimum they're going to get a compensatory third-round pick for him. So they're not going to take anything less than that, and they think the starting price is a number 2. But people are really interested in the quarterbacks. The Anthony Richardson stuff kind of broke as I was getting ready to leave yesterday. Obviously, big talent. Didn't play a lot coming out of college, hasn't played a lot in the NFL due to injuries. The accuracy, that's a question. Can you fix that? Is that something that you can work with as an offensive coordinator or a head coach in the NFL? That's the big question. But, yeah, everybody's talking quarterback. It's a quarterback league, and those are kind of the big dominoes to fall. And then there are people who think, Tua in the right system is something that could be interesting. And a couple people actually mentioned Atlanta, where our former head coach Kevin Stefanski is as a potential landing spot for Tua Tagovailoa.
Nathan, we know that quotes and sound bites aren't sworn testimony, but just listening to both Andrew Berry and Todd Monken this week, it certainly sounds like and feels like adding to the quarterback room is top of mind, right up there with the offensive line and the receiver room. I feel like we're in the choose our own adventure portion of the program again in the offseason. What route do you think is more feasible for the Browns to add to that room and add some competition to it, trade, free agency, or another young project in the draft?
I think that, when you look at, as I talked about with Malik Willis, I just think that that's a hard thing to envision the Browns being able to do. I do think that there is belief in the building in Deshaun Watson, Shedeur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel. Everybody's talking about an open competition. I would not at all be surprised if they add somebody else to that room. It was reported by some that the Browns were very into Drew Aller last year, and had he come out, that maybe that was somebody that the Browns would have looked at early in that draft. And now things did not go well at Penn State. He got injured, but he's somebody, obviously has the Cleveland ties, that I think could be an interesting, if let's say he gets to the 4th round. Daniel Jeremiah was saying, I think you could say that would make a lot of sense for the Cleveland Browns. So I do think another quarterback will be added, whether that is somebody, a veteran, to come in and compete, whether that's a young guy that they're hoping to develop. I don't know, and I think the rest of the league is going to dictate some of that too, because guys like Kyler and Tua, who will get cut, they're really going to pick where they go, because it's not going to necessarily be about the money, because they're going to be getting paid by their former teams. That's an interesting piece to all of this as well. Then there's Kirk Cousins floating out there, who played very well the final 4 games, winning his last 4 starts for Atlanta. So there are options out there. I do think that there's a little bit of optimism around, Todd getting his hands on both Deshaun and Shedeur Sanders and seeing what that looks like. But I'm with you in that that's a position that until you have it solved, you don't have it solved, and you need to be doing everything you can to get it solved. I think from a draft standpoint, when you're talking about your first 3 picks, 3 in the top 39, that's going to be, I think, wide receiver, offensive line. I think that if it's a quarterback in this draft, it's going to be a later project like a Drew Aller, or you're trying to get somebody who's a veteran with some experience that you think can come in and play, because we've only seen Shedeur at the end of last season. There was some very, very good. There was some not so good. And then we haven't seen really Deshaun Watson in quite some time, and hasn't been at the level of an elite quarterback since 2020.
You segue right there, Nathan. Offensive line, wide receivers, what are they saying about the depth of this class? Obviously, the Browns have multiple needs at both of those spots.
Yeah, so a couple of people that I talked to, and we did a ton of interviews, which you can get clevelandbrowns.com, Browns mobile app, and obviously on all the archives from Cleveland Browns Daily. It's one of my favorite things about being there. You get a half hour with Greg Cosell, who I think is one of just the smartest football people in the world. We talked with, basically every draft expert. And the consensus that I came away with it was, for most people, not all, for most people, because there was someone like Jordan Tyson, but for most people, that Carnell Tate is the best receiver in this class. Now, it's funny because the comment a lot of people got, well, we've never seen him be a 1, so we don't know if he can be a 1. Now, I pushed back on some of those people. I said, well, Jeremiah Smith's probably the number 1 receiver on all but maybe 5 teams in the NFL right now, which they certainly agreed with. So a lot of people are saying he's like Devontae Smith. He's a quiet number 1, but he's got a loud number 1 with him, which is the case of A.J. Brown there, which, by the way, A.J. Brown, DJ Moore, and Marvin Harrison were 3 names that were kind of talked about as being potentially available in trades. I think the Olave stuff, people were saying that doesn't make any sense, which I don't think it does. He and Chuck played very well down the stretch last year. But back to Carnell Tate, he was pretty much the consensus top receiver from what people that I talked to had said, and that if you were going to take a receiver at 6, that was the one. The tackles, there's a lot of varying take on it. I had a couple of people who said that Monroe Freeling's actually their favorite tackle, that they don't think there's a top 10 tackle in this class, and that, if you slot it against the class that was Andrew Thomas and Mekhi Becton and Jed Wills and Tristan Wirfs, that there isn't a tackle in this class that would be near those top 4. They'd be a tier below. So it doesn't sound like it is a blue chip heavy draft. And so you have 6 and 24. And I think a lot of people kind of think the player you get between 5 and 25 is probably going to be a similar grade. Generally speaking, it'll be who stands out to what teams. The notion of moving around in the first round, they think that it could be light, or if it's not light, it's not going to involve first round picks in 2027. The thought was that draft is so loaded that people are not going to want to give up 1s in 27 to get somebody in this particular draft. What you have to hope is that maybe at 6, if you're the Browns, and let's say you wanted to move back a little bit, that somebody goes and does something that would be non-traditional. What I mean by that is coming up to 6 to take one of the 3 guys like Sonny Styles, who just dominated the combine yesterday and is the talk of the town. Caleb Downs, who has people who think he's the second best player in this draft, Mel Kiper included, or if there's somebody really loves Jeremiah Love, who people are, at least in Indy this year, were saying was a significantly better prospect than Ashton Genty a year ago.
Nathan, you mentioned one of the freaks yesterday, Sonny Styles, and then they started showing his basketball stuff, and I'm like, are we sure he doesn't want to do basketball? Are we sure? So obviously this guy is a freak athletically. When you start to look at those guys, do we get carried away with that stuff because they grab all the headlines during the combine? You're an experienced vet of these things. How often does the freak at the combine actually resonate to on-the-field play?
Not always. We can go back. We're men of a certain age. You can go back to Mike Mabula, for example. So
That's a great
always,
pull.
right?
Great pull.
But in this case, going into the combine, Sonny Styles was considered the best off-ball linebacker in the draft, and he was also considered a guy that you could take in the top 10. One of the big discussions that people were getting into is the value of it, right? So when you look at what big-time players are paid at the various positions in the NFL, as somebody said, Field Yates, actually, we interviewed Field Yates yesterday, and this is how he laid out. He goes, you have in your draft pick, right, a coupon, let's say, that allows you to pick from any of these, he just used, let's say, widgets, right? You can pick from any of these widgets. Some of the widgets, once you own them, though, have double or triple the value of the other widgets. So he says that, when you look at what a quarterback is paid in this league, what the top wide receivers are paid, what the top cornerbacks are paid, what the top tackles are paid, what the top pass rushers are paid. Those widgets inherently, if you hit on that, you're getting, let's use round numbers, right? Let's say you're getting for $10 million a year, a $40 million asset. Now, when you draft an off-ball linebacker in the first round, you're paying $10 million a year to get, let's call it, a $14 or $15 million asset. So that's kind of where, with a Caleb Downs, or I think the franchise tag $16 million, Caleb Downs, Jeremiah Love, Sonny Styles, who might be 3 of the 5 most talented players in this draft, teams are wondering, do we use this asset now? And then other people say, what are you talking about? Drafting great football players is never a bad idea. And so that will be the interesting, I think, kind of pull and tug at the beginning of this draft. And a guy like Sonny Styles, who came into it with buzz, where people were talking about him being potentially a top 10 pick, and then he goes and does that. I think that will translate. I think that will translate not only in where he ends up getting selected in this draft, but obviously we know what he can do on the field, and he's a beast. So that was one. And let me tell you, that caught the attention of not just people in Indy or fans watching, people around the league, players themselves. You saw Kyle Hamilton was saying he got frame-mogged by Sonny Styles out there. It was an incredible performance that I think is going to probably land him in the top 10.
With David Njoku putting out his goodbye to Cleveland and the Browns earlier this offseason, Nathan, tight end is another need. Is there a dark horse Harold Fannin Jr. Available? He's a third-round pick. I did cartwheels when that card got turned in and it was announced. But what do you think about another mid-round tight end?
I think it's very likely. And I would urge people, Dane Brugler, Daniel Jeremiah, our interviews with them in particular, I asked that question, and they listed out a bunch of tight ends, that you're talking about 3rd, 4th, 5th round guys.
Right.
They really everybody really likes the kid who at Ohio State, and I'm not as well-versed into right now the tight end mid-round class, but who was at Purdue, transfers to Ohio State. People like him. They like the second tight end at Ohio State as a more traditional Y. And my guess is when you look at Todd Monken, I think wants to play more 11 personnel than what we've seen recently. But I also think when he's in 12, what he's going to want is a pure Y to complement. Think about Charlie Kohler in Baltimore to complement Harold Fannin. And so there are some of those guys in this draft, some big physical guys that remind people of Jackson Hawes, who was that second big physical tight end that went to Buffalo his rookie year. Guys who, when you throw it to them, they're going to catch it, but they're not there because they're, big slots like a Harold Fannin, who basically is a receiver at tight end, but who is certainly a willing and able blocker as well. So I think if the Browns do go to the tight end position, it's going to be more somebody who's a traditional inline Y, hand in the ground, that's going to help in the run game. But when you throw it to them, obviously can make plays for you.
Lastly, Nathan, and I appreciate your time. It's always great to catch up with you at the combine time because you're giving us real nuggets, and you do a good job of basically consolidating all what the experts are saying. So I have to ask you, do people feel better? I know he's not throwing or needing to even take part in anything, but after seeing everybody at the combine, because sometimes opinions change once everybody gets to the dive bars or the hotel ballrooms, start getting their cocktails in, you might get some truth. What are people saying about Fernando Mendoza? Do they feel better about him today or maybe not as good, even though we all know he's going number one?
It's kind of basically been like everybody just said, he's already buying a place in Henderson, Nevada. The discussion really wasn't much about him as a prospect. It was more he's going to the Raiders. Tom Brady's juiced about it, and they think that they're just going to have so much fun talking ball together, and that he's wired kind of the way, while it's a very different presentation of it, that Tom Brady is, and that people are excited. Now, Dan Orlovsky, recently has been saying, I didn't talk to him at the combine, obviously, that he has not been impressed with his tape and that he likes Ty Simpson's tape better. There are some people that like Ty Simpson there and that think Ty Simpson's going to end up going in the first round just because of the position he plays, and that somebody's going to fall in love with him. There's good stuff on his tape. There's not a big enough sample size to really understand the body of work, but that somebody will fall in love with him. The one thing I will say, and it's a little bit of a pivot away from that, but really there wasn't a whole lot of Mendoza as a prospect discussion. It was more, he's going to the Raiders. Brady's excited about it. They're excited about it. And that's it, kind of, if that makes any sense. It wasn't like there doesn't need to be, we're not here really to evaluate him at this point because he's going number one to the Raiders.
I just know the reason I ask is last year, I remember how we talked about Shedeur Sanders before the combine and how everybody seemed to agree that he probably wasn't going to be a first-round pick anymore after the combine. So, obviously,
Fernando Mendoza and Shedeur, and look, we don't need to go far down the rabbit hole, but the reality is with Shedeur is that his tape was first round, and even the people who were his detractors early second round, he went in the fifth round. So there's things that none of us were privy to that led to that, right? Whereas Fernando Mendoza, I don't think, from what I've heard, he's so great in those settings, great in the interviews, all of those things, that I don't think there's going to be a change in that. It was basically put it in, like some people said, write it in Sharpie. He's going to the Raiders number one. So it's a little bit of a less discussion. One thing I just wanted to give a caveat of a lot of things that I heard about the Browns from talking to various people around the league. There were two things. Number one, people are very high on Rutenberg, and they love the fact that the Browns were able to bring in Dom Capers, which has been reported. And we heard, Todd Monken talked about it with us. It was talked about, AB talked about it on the podium as well. So, but the Tom Capers, the former two-time coach, he's going to come in as kind of a senior defensive advisor. They love that we kept our defensive staff intact with Jason Tarver, Jacques Césaire, Coach Bonda, and Brandon Lynch. And that Todd Monken has a lot of fans around the NFL for what he is as just a genuine, authentic guy and football coach, but also as an offensive mind who's had success with very different styled quarterbacks. And kind of everybody's saying, to me, look, Todd is good. You have an opportunity to go get a wide receiver early in this draft. And, people were saying 11 personnel, if you could run out there with, Tate, Judy, Bond, Fannin, Judkins. Okay, now you've got some exciting young skill position players. And I would say people in Indy like Isaiah Bond. The people that I talked to a lot, they said that was the one guy that when we put on the tape was behind the defense in every single game.
We
and
saw
if you guys
that.
Can get some,
yeah.
100%. I was a big Isaiah Bond guy. So there's a little bit of belief. And it was basically like, look, if you guys can just get to being the number 16 offense in the NFL, absolute middle of the league with that defense, you're going to be able to challenge for your division.
I'm buying playoff tickets. Nathan, you got me. I'm buying playoff tickets. We got to go. I appreciate it, man.
Let's
Thank
go.
you.
All right, you got it, guys. Thank you.
All right, there he is. Nathan Zegura. Make it right. Call Kyle Wright hotline. That gives me a little pep in my step. So we have
little juice on a Friday.
Absolutely. We have a lot to react to. But first, Jeff Thomas with the update.
is that he's going to end up in Miami, that he is going to go down there. All the people who went from Green Bay down to Miami, they're making moves right now trying to clear space. And that was kind of the sense that I got, is they think Malik Willis is Miami bound. And I know there are other teams that will be interested in him. I think some will be priced out. For example, I think for the Browns, it's just going to be too rich of a price tag if they are, in fact, interested in Malik Willis.
Nathan Zegura from the Combine and the Browns Radio Network with great stuff. We've had great stuff all day today. He was talking about Malik Willis. We're going to get into that here shortly. So happy to have Daryl Ryder in for Ken today, who's on assignment. Daryl, of course, brought to you by Scheiben Jewelers, Cleveland's premier jewelry store. You heard Nathan talk about the quarterback market, why Malik Willis is priced where he is. He thinks it's a little out of the Browns' price tag. Notice you didn't hear Nathan say the Browns aren't pursuing.
Right.
Anthony Richardson's name came up as well. Mac Jones's name came up. Kyler Murray's name came up. So when you hear all of that, Daryl, I'm telling you, the people I talk to that are in Indy, they say the Browns are absolutely going to be adding to this quarterback room.
Yeah, I am convinced they're going to add to the room as well. They're not all in on Shedeur. I think they're going to give Shedeur an opportunity here, but the impression I get is that they're not ready to turn the keys to the car over him yet. He hasn't earned it. They like some of what they saw last year as a rookie, but they also didn't like some of the things that they saw last year of him as a rookie. And and that's why I asked him, what avenue do you think they're going to take as far as adding to this, to this room? Is it going to be through free agency? Is it going to be through the draft? Is there a trade potentially, out there with obviously Anthony Richards securing the permission from the Colts to go ahead and find himself greener pastures? So it's just another offseason where it feels like we're regurgitating the same conversation that we seem to have every year about this team still trying to find the guy for them long term. They've gone every route, right? Let's be honest about it. Over the years, they've gone the retread, they've gone the project, they've gone the late round pick, throw something against the wall route.
That's true. They have tried basically
They've gone with the number 1 pick, the number 22 pick in the draft, right? I mean, so they have tried everything and anything since 1999 to find their guy. They came close twice. Tim Couch, he got beat up. And then obviously Baker Mayfield, and things fell apart there after the injury. So they just got to keep taking swings at it and hoping you connect at some point.
20 or so minutes. I believe we're going to open up the phone lines for Coming In Hot. Ken doesn't like to do it when I'm not here. I love doing it when Ken is not here. So if you've been working on those over the past few weeks, as always, make sure look into your mirror, practice them, rehearse them for your friends, family, most importantly, your children. And then we'll get to that.
Missed a moment in your show? Use the Rewind feature on the Odyssey app, powered by Integrated Restoration, your local experts in water, fire, and storm disaster restoration.
All right, so the talk of all of this, and people get very irritated. There are two factions. There are the anybody but Shedeur faction. That's actually not me. I am not saying anybody but Shedeur.
I'm not either.
Notice how I talked about Anthony Richardson. I made a case for Richardson, but I don't want him. I've made a case for Kyler Murray. I can make a case for a lot of quarterbacks because when you don't have a franchise quarterback, you have to pursue all options. And I understand there are a lot of people that love Shedeur that listen to this show that say, what are you doing? This is easy. You saw him flash in some games last year. He's your starting quarterback week 1. I don't think Todd Monken is thinking that way.
Well, here's the challenge now, okay? Everything that Shedeur Sanders learned last year from Kevin Stefanski, as far as what Stefanski does, he has to wipe that slate clean.
Maybe that's a good thing.
Well, fine, but now he's got this offseason, he's going to have to learn a whole new system. We don't even know what that system is. Think about that, because Todd Monken is such an amoeba, right? He
you
just
guys
goes
have talked
with the flow.
to him. What did he say?
Well, there's some talk that maybe he's going to bring a lot of the elements that he tried to run with the Baltimore Ravens here to Cleveland, which will be exciting.
You know that's going to get people thinking that, that means they're going after Anthony Richardson or Malik Willis.
And he does like the mobile quarterback, which Shedeur has those traits.
Shedeur has mobility.
Well.
He's not a runner like those guys.
No.
He's a capable scrambler and take off and run guy.
I'm an extend.
You're not calling plays for it.
I don't like the running quarterback. And the reason I don't like the running quarterback is...
What year is Daryl joining us in? Is this 1988?
No, I don't like the I don't want to put him in harm's way to take all these extra hits. What I like, though, is the quarterback that can extend the play. Keep the eyes down the field, extend the play, move. Right. So, and listen, I am all about giving Shedeur Sanders an opportunity to win this job this year. I'm not pro just give him the keys and say it's his, but I'm talking a tangible and legitimate competition in which he's getting first-team reps during the OTAs, during the mini camp, during training camp. None of this nonsense where he's throwing to the ball boys because they ran out of wide receivers because he's the fourth guy in line to get snaps.
My goal, from your lips to God's ears, my goal is to never have to hear about first-team reps again. That was exhausting. And I get it. I didn't understand at the time what was happening.
You saw the results of that play out in the season, during the season, I should say, and the problems it created.
It was a ridiculous setup.
They had to trade Joe Flacco to force Kevin Stefanski to play Dylan Gabriel, right? And then Dylan, unfortunately, got hurt, and that opened the door for Shedeur. And then Shedeur played well in 2 games. Then Kevin was like, all right, yeah, sure, fine. He's going to start the rest of the season. But, this is the way it unfortunately goes with the Browns when it comes to the quarterback situation. Oftentimes, circumstances outside of their control determines their timeline. My one wish for the Browns, whether it's this year, next year, whatever, aside from just find a guy, is that whatever their quarterback process is this offseason, that they are able to execute it and circumstances outside their control don't dictate what they do. Because too often, when it comes to the quarterback here, circumstances outside their control dictate what happens.
Man, I keep coming back to if they end up pulling, and Nathan said it's going to be too tough for them, given the market right now for Malik Willis. But if Malik Willis comes in, that's probably the end of the Shedeur conversation for a while.
Well, I think Malik Willis should end up in Miami, and Nathan talked about that he's hearing Miami seems to be the destination. Well, of course, the new GM of the Dolphins came from Green Bay. If that guy doesn't want him, then nobody should want him. Yeah, he saw him last year.
Let me go out to the phone. Frank's been waiting a while in Gates Mills. Congratulations, Frank, on all your success. You want to talk about a quarterback that we are not talking about this segment. We did mention him earlier, Deshaun Watson.
Yeah. How could you not think that Deshaun Watson he'll be the starting quarterback next year?
Why is that?
Well, a couple things. One, the Browns need to get some value out of the money they spent or confirm that he can no longer play, because the worst-case scenario would be he doesn't play, and then he goes and plays somewhere else in 27 and plays well.
Frank, I got to say, I asked yesterday real quick. Frank, I'll let you back in, though. I said yesterday that I think if you polled the Browns fans and you told them, hey, you'll make the playoffs next year with Deshaun Watson, but it means they sign him to an extension, I think fans would overwhelmingly say, I'm good. I don't need the playoffs next year. I don't want to be in bed with that for another how many years. I'm good. So I don't know Frank, I don't think fans care if he goes elsewhere and succeeds. I think they want to wash their hands of the whole Deshaun Watson situation.
Well, that's your opinion. I mean, I think Browns fans easily forget. And if you're talking about a playoff team, the difference of opinion in terms of what they would think about Deshaun Watson next year if they're playing in the playoffs is different. So my other point
was... Is that poll worthy, Owen? Should we put up a poll on that?
Why not?
It's Friday. Why not? Go ahead, Frank. Finish up.
So my other point was we talked about Shedeur needing more time to develop, more time to learn. He got thrust into playing this year only because of injuries, really. I mean, I think that's probably the main reason. So he needs more time to develop, and allowing Deshaun Watson to start and confirm whether he can still play or not is the perfect opportunity. If he can't, then it's easy. Then you move on to Shedeur after the third or fourth game. But I'm not a betting guy, but I would bet that Deshaun Watson's your starting quarterback next year.
Frank, I appreciate the phone call. It's something to think about. Daryl, hold your tongue.
I got 2 words in response to that.
Okay. let's make us wait. You got to make them wait for it, as well as people are going to have to wait for coming in hot. 216-474-0092. You have your opportunity here in the break to get on board, formulate your coming in hots. There's no Ken today to defend himself, so that makes it even spicier. I want to hear from the fans next. 216-474-0092. It's coming in hot next here on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. XTE.
Subject to driver availability. Details at Lowe's.com/same-day delivery.
Headline sports news every 20 minutes from the University Hospital's sports desk. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
All right, so I have asked Young John, our brand new producer, who right now, we did the grades for the Browns earlier today. I think all things considered, he has been a hit so far.
He certainly has a much higher GPA than the Cleveland Browns do.
Trajectory, I think it's there. I think we're dealing with a high ceiling. So he, with conviction, hit us up in our own show thread, which was, you got to play this audio and you got to play it now. And we're learning the sensibilities. He's learning our sensibilities. I'm learning his sensibilities. And we're all trying to work together. And I know we got coming in hot shortly. Owen, he teased Kevin Stefanski talking Baker Mayfield.
Yep.
Those are two lightning rods.
Yep.
So I love the conviction.
Popcorn ready.
Right?
Now, I'm going to ask you two, being guys who have listened to as much Kevin Stefanski in the last 6 years as anyone in the world, right?
I have listened to more
You
Kevin.
will hear the question asked on Pardon My Take. What do you think the first line coming out of his mouth is?
I know.
Go ahead, Daryl Ryder.
We say it at the same time?
Owen, I appreciate the question.
Go ahead and stop, Daryl Ryder.
Respectfully.
Okay. Now we will play this answer, and you will hear what he says.
2022, offseason for the Browns, obviously a big change. Yes or no, would you, going back in time, would you want to do things differently? You guys obviously acquired Deshaun Watson, got rid of Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, I respect the question and understand why you're asking it. And I'm not going to give you a yes or no. I would tell you all the...
You did say I first, which I think is what you said, but the respect was in there. There's always respect.
Respectfully, I understand the question.
Those decisions that were made, you learn from all of them. And those are tough decisions that are made for rosters and those type of things. But can't change the past, only going to focus on the future.
Now, is John listening to this at 3.5 speed?
That was a little fast, that's not John's fault.
No, I know.
That's the sourcing, I believe. But
yes, Kevin does not speak that fast.
As John, who has done a very good job in his first week and a half,
gangbusters.
2 weeks,
yes,
he's done a great job. There's the one thing that people that have listened to Kevin Stefanski, you knew it before he said it. You knew how that question was going to be answered. It didn't change because he moved to Atlanta.
No.
And quite frankly, he could get 5 more head coaching jobs, and I don't think it's ever going to change.
I agree. Respectfully, Owen, I agree with your sentiment. And young John will learn throughout the process that Kevin Stefanski audio is typically bad audio to play on the radio.
And you know what, Anthony? I understand your question, but I think right now it's time for coming in hot.
Respectfully, of course.
All right, Cleveland, it's time to get whatever you want off your chest. Cleveland, you're coming in hot. The phone lines are open now.
I have a diabolical poll question that is up. We'll get to that. Let's go to the phones. Line 1. What a great way to launch into coming in hot. Go ahead.
Big James Harden sat in a garden eating his Christmas pie. He put his thumb in it and pulled out a plum. Yo, ladies and gentlemen, is in Cleveland the plum? Why be glum over a thumb? Have a good night, everybody.
Daryl, you're a historian. Who once coined the term Cleveland is a plum?
Oh, I got caught on the have a good night, everybody. I got caught with Joe Tate at the end there.
Line 2, you're coming in hot.
One man's trash is another man's treasure. Great saying, Daryl, but horrible way to find out Lime was adopted.
That is eventually what's going to happen.
Wait a minute. I'm adopted. What are you trying to say?
Line
That's
32. Fun. You're next up. Coming in hot.
Oh, Ken Carman, that Homer chubby man. Now, screw that. USA got the gold. We own hockey. We stronger than Daryl's jawline. You can't abolish this ice. USA! USA!
USA!
USA!
Line 15. You're coming in hot.
That Ken Carman crossed the border, turned his back on the red, white, and blue. Traded Giant Eagle for first Tim Hortons. Maple syrup celebrates Boxing Day. Taking home, oh Canada, to the land of poutine fries. Swapped his Bud Lights for maple lagers. Baseball nights for hockey fights. Everybody take it home.
All right, so he took a John Denver song about West Virginia and made it about Canada and Ken Carman.
Yes.
Cleveland is a plum.
From
Colorado. The Plain Dealer rebranded in a marketing campaign in 1981 to fight the Big Apple hysteria. Let's go back to the phones. Line 5, you're on Coming In Hot.
Yeah, this is for the clown who called from Gates Mills about 10 minutes ago. Talking about Deshaun Watson being the starter. I'm not a betting man either, pal, but I'm betting you can.
Is he doing a tape? Was that a tape?
Unfortunately, that's not allowed in Coming In Hot. I'm sorry.
216-474-0092. Re-rack the phones. We head
You're
on
not
out.
sorry, Owen.
It's just the rules. I play by.
And if that happens again, we'll have to go to a diabolical poll question that I just put out there. Line 2, you're coming in hot.
Super Fidos! Super Pass! Yeah!
Okay.
216-474-0092. We go back to the phone lines on a Friday. We can take 4 more. It's coming in hot.
Better hair these days, Dom Capers or Daryl Ryder?
Let me tell you something right now. This is the first thing I noticed when I came in. Daryl, who is responsible for the makeover? It was the elephant in the room. I didn't want to get too personal.
Some
Daryl
said it was his make or break over.
Daryl, the hair.
I have to say, the hair's been upgraded.
Where has this been? And you didn't even go to Vanscoy.
Did you shoot lasers in your head?
Yeah.
No.
Did you reharvest the follicles from the back?
Nope, but I have to say, it does look good on camera.
You're going to stick with
That's about
this?
the only part of me that looks good on camera, by the way, is the hair.
I mean, this is Al Pacino sitting in the courtroom, Michael Corleone in Godfather 2, slicked back.
We're going for the Pat Riley. That's the goal.
Yeah,
It's
good.
slipped back. It's pushed back.
That's right. Now, Dom Capers is doing something
And it used to be.
completely different.
I have discovered I am losing a little hair, so we're hiding it.
It's not. We're all aging. Daryl, gracefully. Line 3, you're coming in hot.
Hi! Hey! It's Tristan Crick with BetQL. I'm going to make a recommendation for your new guy, John Calavita, to take a snowmobile from Marblehead all the way to the island where I live at, Rattlesnake Island. Hopefully it's not too late before the lake melts. Hey, Cleveland and Carman and Liva with special guest Daryl Ryder. I'm helping you guys beat the books.
Do not, I repeat, do not, public service announcement, go out there on the ice. It's melting anyway, right? Is there any ice left?
Well, if you want Lima's wife to call on you,
She will call the police. She will call the police. She will call the authorities. They will come after you. Line 2, you're coming in hot.
But, Your Honor, my defendant, Mr. Classe, is not guilty. You can't throw bad pitches on stolen land.
We will continue on. Coming in hot. Line 5.
You have to dump him. That's fine.
Line 5. Go ahead.
That's you.
Hello? Oh, sorry. What's
coming in late?
Drives on a parkway, parks on a driveway. We can take one more. You're coming in hot. We'll now have to go out to the diabolical poll question. And this is why we do this. So the show can come to a screeching halt. Browns fans, if I guarantee you the playoffs with Deshaun Watson as the starting quarterback this year, but it comes with an automatic contract extension, would you take it? So far, 135 votes, Daryl, in the last 5 minutes.
Including one from me.
No is like a runaway freight train right now. 64%. Browns fans want to sit the playoffs out this year.
I got 2 words for you.
Go ahead.
Sunk cost. That's what Deshaun Watson is. A sunk cost.
We're not doing takes for coming in hot, Daryl. You had 3 hours and 45 minutes to get the takes in.
Just do it during the show.
I want to thank Young John, Calavita. I want to thank Daryl Ryder. I think so. Still better than what Ken says is the nickname. Daryl, thank you. Brad Daugherty. He said Harden going through the drills yesterday. No load management. He's going to play. He is going to put it out there on the line against Detroit. And J.B. Bickerstaff tonight for the Cavaliers at 7:30. The Palace of Auburn Hills, or whatever they call it nowadays. Little Caesars.
Yeah, they're downtown now.
Thank you, Nathan Zegura from the Combine as well, who says a lot of scuttlebutt about the Browns adding to that quarterback room. Basket of Phelps coming in next. You've been listening to Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima here on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
Friday.
On a football Friday.
No, Tall Boy.
On a Tall Boy Friday.
I'd like to give a shout out to the Zach Gallo vodka, I know that
whiskey, beer, tequila, more beer, more vodka, more whiskey, and more beer.
Hey,